Chapter 3292. Haven't you embarrassed yourself enough? He continued to use his full strength to torture Lin Ling, causing Lin Ling to groan in pain. He looked extremely pitiful. Haha. Brother Wuji, did you see that? You must have been fooled by Lin Ling. He's as weak as an ant. The more he tortured Lin Ling, the more satisfied Wangu Fengyun felt. He even spoke to Wangu Wuji proudly. Fengyun, haven't you embarrassed yourself enough? Wangu Wuji's voice rang through the air, and there was a trace of anger in his voice. Ah! Wangu Fengyun was stunned when he heard Wangu Wuji's voice. He didn't understand what Wangu Wuji was trying to say. Turn around and take a look. Wangu Wuji spoke once more, and his words caused Wangu Fengyun to turn around. The moment he did, his face contorted in pain. Beside Wangu Wuji, there were 3 people with smiles on their faces as they sat around the table, drinking tea. Who else could it be other than Lin Ling? What's going on? Wangu Fengyun couldn't help but turn to look at Lin Ling. When he realized that Lin Ling was still begging for his life, he was stunned. Everyone noticed the change in Wangu Wuji's expression, and their eyes widened in shock. When did Lin Ling go over there to drink tea? Come back. Don't embarrass yourself. While you're feeling proud of yourself, he's treating you like a monkey. Wangu Wuji spoke again. He knew that Lin Ling was merely giving him face. Otherwise, Wangu Fengyun would be beaten up like a stray dog. Even though Lin Ling was only at the peak of the half-true saint realm, his strength wasn't to be underestimated. Thank you, Wangu Wuji said to Lin Ling, who was standing beside him. Lin Ling chuckled, there's no need for that. On the contrary, I should be thanking you. You were the first one who supported me the last time. It's just a small matter. Wangu Wuji chuckled. One had to know that he had maintained a cold expression ever since he arrived at the Great Change Nebula sect. He didn't even frown in front of true saints. He didn't even greet them politely. Only when he faced Lin Ling did he smile. In the distance, Wangu Fengyun felt extremely embarrassed. He wanted nothing more than to dig a hole and bury himself in it. Even so, he couldn't help but turn around and look at Lin Ling. It's just a small trick. If we fight head-on, you're definitely not my opponent. Fengyun, you can't even see through his methods. Where did you get the confidence to say that? If he wants to kill you, you won't even know how you will die. Wangu Wuji coldly, Wangu Wuji, Wangu Wuji, Wangu Wuji, and Wangu Wuji. Indeed, he couldn't even see through the illusion. If Lin Ling wanted to kill him, how could he resist? He couldn't help but stare at Lin Ling and the other 2 before bowing respectfully. No wonder Brother Wuji is full of praises for you. I have experienced it today. I hope that Senior Lin Ling won't hold it against me for my recklessness. Lin Ling smiled and waved his hand when he heard what Wangu Wuji had said. When the members of the Great Change Nebula sect saw this, they laughed. The elders were extremely proud of Wangu Wuji. At the very least, there was someone among the younger generation in the Great Change Nebula sect who could withstand the provocation of the Wangu clan. Brother Wuji, you didn't come all the way here just to have a cup of tea, right? Lin Ling smiled as he looked at Wangu Wuji. It was obvious that Wangu Wuji wasn't a refined person. He was a martial arts fanatic who wanted to follow in the footsteps of the gods in the future. It was impossible for him to come and have a cup of tea with Lin Ling. Of course not. I just wanted to go to a place and I thought of you. That's why I invited you to come with me. Wangu Wuji said as he sipped his tea. In the Yen Prefecture? Lin Ling asked. Of course. Other than the Yen Prefecture and Miao Prefecture, I don't want to go to the other divine prefectures. Wangu Wuji nodded. Lin Ling, on the other hand, glanced at Sakura and Meng Lu and finally nodded. They had been in seclusion for too long and it was a good opportunity for them to go out and take a look. Perhaps they might be able to make a breakthrough. Let's go then. Wangu Wuji smiled when he saw Lin Ling and the others nodding their heads. He then left with Lin Ling and the others. Lin Ling and the others didn't treat the Great Simplicity Nebula sect as their own. Hence, they didn't even bother to say goodbye. However, the Great Simplicity Nebula sect didn't care about their rudeness. On the contrary, many people were excited when they saw Lin Ling and the others leave. They felt proud of them. I didn't expect the Wangu clan to treat the Great Simplicity Nebula sect as their equal. Moreover, these people are disciples of the Constellation Nebula sect. The great simplicity old ancestor said with a sigh. Apparently, he had been watching the scene unfold. The Wangu clan was definitely more powerful than the Great Simplicity Nebula sect. Unless the martial god behind the Great Simplicity old ancestor showed up, the Wangu clan wouldn't have to show any respect to the Great Simplicity Nebula sect. That was the truth. When the few young men arrived, they didn't show any respect to the Great Simplicity old ancestor. On the contrary, they showed respect to Lin Ling. The Great Simplicity old ancestor didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Lin Ling. Zhang Wujie was also watching the scene unfold. Ever since he had returned, he had been in seclusion and hadn't met anyone. He had only met the Great Simplicity old ancestor once. This was because he was too ashamed to meet anyone. Now that he noticed the treatment Lin Ling was receiving, his eyes were filled with cold murderous intent. It was Lin Ling who had destroyed everything he had. He had never expected that his senior brother, Constellation Nebula, had been helpless against him and had even been bullied by him. However, Constellation Nebula's disciples had dealt him such a heavy blow. At that moment, Lin Ling and the others were following Wangu Wuji and strolling in the sky. None of them were weaklings. Although they seemed to be moving slowly, they disappeared into the horizon in the blink of an eye. This was the first time Lin Ling and the others were walking around the flame region. They realized that the continent was much bigger than they had imagined. However, Lin Ling had been here before and the shock disappeared quickly. On the other hand, it was Sakra's first time here and he was deeply attracted to the godly mainland. The place we are heading to is called the Godly Lookout Corner. It is very interesting, Wangu Wuji said with a smile. Why is it interesting? Lin Ling's interest was piqued. If Wangu Wuji was interested in it, it had to be extraordinary. That is because it is the godly arena. There are many secrets and bloodlines left behind by the gods. It is a famous place in the flame region. Furthermore, there are many powerful slaves there. Slaves? That's right. You should know that not everyone can become a citizen of the Yen state. However, there are some who yearn for the godly continent and smuggle themselves in. In the end, after they are caught, they are naturally reduced to slaves. There are also some who were originally citizens of the Yen state. However, because they did something that angered the heavens and the people, the martial god deprived them of their status as citizens. However, they still did not leave. After they were caught, they became slaves. Chapter 3293. The Mysterious Arena. Wangu Wuji continued to speak. Lin Ling and the others' eyes lit up. No matter where one was, there would always be a difference in status. In the Flame Province, the difference in status was even more obvious. As they continued to move forward, many experts appeared in the sky. Most of them were in the Sage realm. Some of them had smiles on their faces, while others had cold expressions on their faces. Their auras were all different, but they were all extremely powerful existences. Wangu Wuji, who had always been arrogant, retracted his aura when he saw these people. The Flame Province is one of the top divine continents in the 9 prefectures. Therefore, there are many cultivators here. Moreover, there are quite a few who are bold and arrogant. After all, those who are able to make it this far have been through countless life and death situations. Sometimes, these cultivators won't care about your status. If they really want to kill you, they won't care about your status. Therefore, it's best if you don't provoke them. Wangu Wuji explained when he saw the doubtful looks on Lin Ling and the others' faces. Wangu Fengyun and the others behind him also kept a low profile. You're from the Wangu clan. How dare they act so arrogantly? Meng Lu asked curiously. Hee, the Flame Province is huge. So what if I'm from the Wangu clan? If it concerns their benefits, they will still dare to touch me. After that, the Wangu clan won't be able to find them in a short period of time. Cultivators aren't afraid of taking risks in order to become stronger. This is especially true for the cultivators from the Flame Province and Miao Province. That's because they're already very close to the world of gods. Wangu Wuji explained. Lin Ling and the others nodded their heads in agreement. It seemed like this was a place where dragons and snakes mixed together. However, that was for the best. At the very least, the son of the devil wouldn't be a thorn in their side. Even if someone recognized them, it wouldn't affect them much. Is that the Divine Lookout Corner? At this time, Sakra let out a cry of surprise, because a huge eye appeared on the ground in front of him, as if it was the eye of a god. Moreover, the most astonishing thing was, no matter which angle you were at, you would be able to discover that I was looking at you. When he got closer, Lin Ling realized that it wasn't an eye, but a huge arena. Because it was round and there were layers upon layers of seats, it looked like an eyeball from a distance. I see. Sakura gradually discovered this wonderful place, but he still felt uncomfortable in his heart. Because although it was a huge arena, there was still a mysterious aura pervading the air. I heard that a god eye exists in the center of the arena, one of the 6 great god eyes of the universe, the 9th god eye. Of course, many people have secretly investigated, but alas, they found nothing. Thus, the majority of people believe that this is just a rumor. Wangu Wuji explained. Lin Ling nodded his head. He didn't know why, but he could feel a wave of hostility coming from the arena. This hostility didn't come from a single person, but from the entire arena. Lin Ling possessed one of the 6 great god eyes of the universe, the space-time god eye. Perhaps, this was the source of the hostility. Let's go down. Wangu Wuji waved his hand at Lin Ling and the others, and all of them landed on the ground. Following the crowd, they entered the palace. Those people are from the Great Devil sect. After taking a few steps, Sakura suddenly said in a low voice, "That's normal. The Great Devil sect of the 9 prefectures might seem to have been chased away, but with their strength, it isn't difficult for them to sneak into the Yen province." Wangu Wuji said as he looked at the other side. "Those people over there are from the Immortal Temple. As for those who are wearing armor, they are from the Divine Weapon Mansion, Flying Dragon Organization, and Fuhang Manor. Look, even the people from the New Heavenly Court are here." Lin Ling immediately looked over and immediately saw many strong cultivators moving forward. They had disguised their appearances, and their auras were extremely cold. This made Lin Ling even more curious. Could it be that these superpowers were here to buy slaves? However, right at this moment, one of them suddenly stopped and looked towards Lin Ling's direction. This person was tall and had long blue hair. Most importantly, his eyes were dark blue as well, and they were extremely mysterious. It was as if he could see through Lin Ling's group. Moreover, he was extremely rude as he sized up Lin Ling and the others. However, Lin Ling and the others didn't say anything. "Lord Golden Crow, what's wrong?" Very quickly, a puzzled voice rang out beside the blue-haired man. The blue-haired man chuckled and shook his head before continuing to walk forward. "It seems like they are from the New Heavenly Court." Meng Lu muttered to himself when he saw them enter the arena. "Indeed." Lin Ling nodded and stared ahead with a murderous glint in his eyes. After Martial God Qilin had fallen, his new enemy was Martial God Wen Tian. Martial God Wen Tian had reorganized the Heavenly Court and recruited many experts. The person who had attacked Lin Ling earlier was extremely talented, and these people were Lin Ling's greatest enemies. Strange. I can't see through that person. He seems to have the sea god's bloodline, but it doesn't seem like it. Wangu Wuji suddenly said. That's the eye of the sea god, one of the 9 great heavenly eyes. Lin Ling explained. What? This time before Wangu Wuji could say anything, Wangu Fengyun exclaimed. The eye of the sea god was even more powerful than the sea god's bloodline. If what Lin Ling said is true, his talent is definitely in the ultimate desolate physique. Wangu Wuji chimed in. The ultimate desolate physique was extremely rare. Generally speaking, once a martial artist's talent reached the 10th grade desolate physique, they would have to rely on luck to enter the next realm. Not every desolate physique could reach the ultimate desolate physique. Those who possessed the ultimate desolate physique would definitely become martial ancestors in the future. Take Lin Ling for example. Other than Yu Yu, no one around him had the ultimate desolate physique, including Lin Ling himself. However, Lin Ling had a few great talents that had the potential to reach the ultimate desolate physique. This was especially so for the space-time divine steel. Lin Ling was confident that he could reach the ultimate desolate physique. God's eye against the heavenly eye. Lin Ling muttered to himself. Among the talents of the eye system, Lin Ling was confident that he could defeat the eye of the sea god. Everyone whispered to each other as they entered the arena. The moment they entered, deafening cheers resounded through the arena. Countless people were cheering, shaking the heavens. And in the sky above the arena, there was a huge barrier that blocked everything, preventing the power of the arena from rushing into the sky. How terrifying! Sensing the ferocious aura, the faces of Sakura and the others changed. If the aura wasn't sealed, the the sky above the Yen state would probably tremble. If it was placed in the myriad worlds, the impact of the aura would be enough to shatter the myriad worlds. Chapter 3294. The Flame Emperor's Men. On the other hand, Lin Ling frowned as he stared at the barrier in the sky. He realized that the barrier was like a rainbow with all sorts of colors. There were a total of 9 different colors. Moreover, Lin Ling sensed that the power emanating from the membrane gave him a very familiar feeling. It was the 9th God's Eye. Lin Ling was finally certain. The 9th God's Eye was definitely hidden in the arena. He immediately recalled the rumors that he had heard about the 9th God's Eye. The 9th God's Eye was the most mysterious of the 6 great God Eyes in the universe. It was said that the 9th God's Eye wasn't an inanimate object but an independent existence. This meant that the 9th God's Eye had its own thoughts and could even transform into a human. Furthermore, it was said that the 9th God's Eye possessed the power of a god. 10,000 mammoth demonic eyes. Lin Ling secretly activated his 10,000 mammoth demonic eyes as he tried to see through the barrier. However, his 10,000 mammoth demonic eyes were blocked. Not far from the center of the arena, Lin Ling saw a large number of barriers hidden in a golden brick. The 9th God's Eye has been sealed, and its energy has been borrowed by the arena. Lin Ling guessed inwardly. He then retracted his thoughts and continued forward with Wangu Wuji and the others. At the front of the arena, there were some empty seats. However, one had to pay 100 Emperor crystals to sit there. It was extremely expensive. However, Wangu Wuji's expression didn't change. After paying the Emperor crystals for Lin Ling and the others, he sat down in one of the seats. Wangu Wuji, I don't think it's worth it. Lin Ling said. It's worth it. Although you don't have to pay to sit at the back, it's more convenient for you to sit at the front. For example, you can place bets and enter the arena. There are 2 types of battles in the arena. The first type is a battle between slaves. Those who win will receive multiple bets. The person who placed the highest bet will obtain the slave. The second type is a battle between slaves and cultivators. If the cultivators are confident in themselves, they can enter the arena. Those who survive will be rewarded handsomely. It's said that the reward starts from 100,000 Emperor crystals. If the battle continues, the reward will be multiplied. This is also a battle between life and death. Wangu Wuji explained. Chi. Sakura and the others sucked in a breath of cold air. It was very cruel, but many martial artists would choose this path in order to become stronger. It was also because even if they didn't enter this cruel battlefield, how could the outside world not be cruel? Therefore, only by becoming stronger could one's life be controlled. Kill. While they were talking, a brutal battle broke out in the arena. Those were 2 slaves. One of them had 6 arms and was 5 meters tall. The other person was as short as a mouse, but the cold claws on his hands were extremely long. Their talents were clearly different, as if they were the descendants of the gods. However, if it were to be compared to a human's talent, it was almost comparable to a 10th grade talent. Swoosh! Blood flowed out of the arena like seawater. What was surprising was that the tall slave was no match for the short slave. His body was constantly being torn apart by the short slave's claws. Blood and flesh splattered everywhere. 5 of his 6 arms had been forcefully torn off. It was extremely cruel. However, the 2 slaves did not show any mercy. Even though they were heavily injured and had already won, they continued to fight with their lives on the line. This was because they knew that this was a battle between life and death. Only one of them could leave this place alive. They also knew that they should never underestimate a person who was about to die. In the next moment, the latter could explode with all his might and turn the tables. Kill! 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 That cruel scene caused the crowd to boil with excitement. All of them licked their lips as a bloodthirsty light flashed in their eyes. This was especially so for the tall slave. When his arm was forcefully torn off and fresh blood spurted out, the crowd became even more excited. This scene caused Lin Ling and the others to frown. Although they weren't good people and had killed many people in their lives, they didn't feel any excitement when faced with such a scene. What a bunch of perverts! Lin Ling muttered under his breath. How many of us who are here are good people? Wangu Wuji said calmly. However, just as he finished speaking, an indifferent voice sounded from behind him. Yo, when did our Wangu Wuji become so compassionate? How ironic! This voice was sharp and unkind. It didn't show any mercy because of Wangu Wuji's background. Wangu Fengyun and the others turned around and their faces turned ugly. They saw a group of familiar faces sitting in the row behind them. These people weren't old, but their strength wasn't weak. They were all in the sage realm. Most importantly, they came from all sorts of backgrounds. There were people from the New Heavenly Court, assassins from the Flying Dragon Organization, Fu Hang Manor, Divine Escort Mansion, and many others. Of course, they all had the same identity. They were the Flaming Emperor's men. The Flaming Emperor had recruited a lot of disciples. He would often search for powerful geniuses in the flame state and nurture them before sending them to the various superpowers. This was why the Flaming Emperor had a good relationship with the various superpowers. In the flame state, the Wangu clan was the #1 clan. They had the support of the martial god and were the Flaming Emperor's only opponent. Hence, the two superpowers had always been at odds with each other. Wangu Wuji, you're really lucky to have survived the trip to the Heavenly King Mountain. Hee, the people from the Wangu clan are really trash. They can only roam around the half-sages. They can't even enter our world. Those people continued to mock Wangu Wuji. It was obvious that they weren't in the same place as Lin Ling and the others. That was because they were stronger. Hence, the battlefield was on the other side. However, Wangu Wuji didn't care about their insults. He continued to chat with Lin Ling and the others as they watched the battle. The faces of the youths turned ugly when they saw Wangu Wuji. They were the Flaming Emperor's men and had been nobles in the Flame State since they were young. They also claimed to be part of the ancient god clan. However, Wangu Wuji actually dared to ignore them. Wangu Wuji, since when did you like to hang out with slaves? Don't tell me that you want to become a slave as well? Another person spoke. This person was in the 4th heaven of the Sage Realm. He had long golden hair and there were a few words on his cloak. It was the New Heavenly Court. Then he looked at Lin Ling and the others and said, "You slaves, follow me. We'll give you whatever you want. Furthermore, I'll recruit you on behalf of the New Heavenly Court. All you have to do is leave Wangu Wuji." It was obvious that this person wanted to embarrass Wangu Wuji. Hence, he started to make his move on Lin Ling and the others. However, Lin Ling and the rest turned around to take a look. They smiled faintly and continued to watch the arena. Chapter 3295. Lin Ling made his bet. It had to be said that the Flame Emperor was truly ambitious. By allowing his disciples to join the various superpowers, he had managed to tie them all together. However, Lin Ling and the others continued to stare at the arena. Their disregard for Lin Ling caused the faces of the youths to turn cold. In their eyes, Lin Ling and the others were trash. Wangu Wuji had the right to disregard them, but did these ants have the right to do so? Lowly commoners. One of them couldn't hold back his anger and started to curse. The youth named Lin Hongkai who had started the fight also spoke in a hoarse voice. "Did the few of you hear what I said?" However, not only did Xueqi and the others ignore him, they even started to study martial arts with Lin Ling. "You guys are really bold." The actions of Lin Ling and the others had undoubtedly infuriated the youths. Lin Hongkai stood up. However, before she could speak, Lin Ling finally opened his mouth and said slowly, "Could it be that there are more pigs in the Yan province?" Wangu Wuji chuckled when he heard what Huang Xiaolong said. "Most of them are pigs. However, there are some who are worse than pigs." As soon as Wangu Wuji said that, everyone around Lin Hongkai flew into a rage. Pigs? Was he scolding them? Furthermore, they were worse than pigs? Wangu Wuji, don't be too arrogant. Lin Hongkai roared in anger. You guys are worse than pigs. You invited them to join the various superpowers, but did you ask for their permission? Don't think that those forces are so great. In fact, in other people's hearts, those forces are just so. Only some people who are worse than pigs would worship those forces as gods. What a different vision, a different world. Wangu Wuji laughed mockingly as he spoke. You guys. Lin Hongkai and the others felt as though they had suffered a great humiliation. They had given Lin Ling and the others a way out, but who would have thought that Lin Ling and the others wouldn't even bat an eyelid at all? The most ironic thing was that they didn't know about it. On the contrary, they were acting all high and mighty. Sit down. Haven't you embarrassed yourselves enough? While Lin Hongkai and the others were raging, Lin Ling's voice rang out. You have guts. Lin Hongkai glanced at the surroundings, but he didn't dare to interrupt the fun in the arena. He could only grit his teeth and return to his seat. The battle in the arena became more and more intense. A large number of slaves died, and the slaves who won would be taken away by the person who placed the highest bet. Of course, some people didn't want the slaves, so the slaves would have to continue fighting until someone took them away. Otherwise, they would die in battle. It had to be said that these slaves were extremely miserable. Lin Ling sighed softly. He sympathized with the slaves because many of them were humans. However, there was nothing he could do about it. Lin Ling, place your bets. Wangu Wuji made a suggestion. Lin Ling, Sakura, and the others couldn't bring themselves to do it. After all, it was a little too heartless to gamble with other people's lives. Even if you don't place your bets, the fate of the slaves can't be changed. On the other hand, if you don't like this kind of heartless battle, you can change everything after you become stronger. However, you have to be strong enough to fight against the four great gods. Wangu Wuji chuckled. He knew what Lin Ling and the others were worried about. Lin Ling and the others felt relieved when they heard what Wangu Wuji said. Although they sympathized with the slaves, it was useless. They couldn't change anything. It would be better for them to increase their strength. Hence, Lin Ling and the others placed their bets as well. As for Lin Ling, after watching a few matches, he finally came to a decision. Poor commoners. Do you have any royal crystals to place your bets? Lin Hongkai mocked when she saw the restless looks on Lin Ling and the others' faces. In my opinion, they can only place 100 royal crystals at most. That's their entire fortune. Place a bet of 10,000 royal crystals. Commoners, do you see that? Do you know what it means to be a noble? Everyone laughed mockingly. They were all high and mighty. Lin Ling, how many royal crystals do you need? I'll lend them to you. Is 1 million enough? When Wangu Wuji heard their words, he couldn't hold it in any longer. He didn't care if Lin Hongkai and the others mocked him. However, when they mocked Lin Ling and the others, he couldn't hold it in any longer. Hence, he decided to go all out and give all his royal crystals to Lin Ling. There's no need for that. I have my own. But who knew that Lin Ling would reject him directly? Lin Hongkai and the others sneered when they saw Wangu Wuji's offer. This lowly commoner must be afraid that he won't be able to pay back Wangu Wuji's royal crystals. They knew that other than the cultivators from the Flame State and Meow State, the other cultivators wouldn't be able to take out 1 million royal crystals. I'll place a bet of 40 million royal crystals. Just as they were about to speak, Lin Ling spoke up. He hadn't used the rewards from the Flame State and Tai Old Ancestor so far. Naturally, he would use it to place a bet. 40 million. Lin Hongkai and the others' eyes widened when they saw Wangu Wuji's bid. They were the Flame Emperor's men and had joined various superpowers. However, they had never seen more than 10 million royal crystals. Even though their cultivation had reached the Sage Realm, they had accumulated their royal crystals bit by bit. It was impossible for them to take out 40 million royal crystals all at once. It's fake. It must be fake. Lin Hongkai shook her head. She didn't believe that a few commoners would be able to take out so much money. In fact, even Wangu Wuji sucked in a breath of cold air. At that moment, a cold old man looked at Lin Ling and asked, "Sir, are you sure you want to place a bet of 40 million royal crystals?" 40 million royal crystals was a huge sum of money. Senior Liu, they must be lying. How can they take out 40 million royal crystals? Roar! Lin Hongkai's roar attracted many people's attention. Commoners, do you know the consequences of lying in the arena? You will be treated like a slave. Senior Liu, catch them. Go! Lin Hongkai pointed at Lin Ling and the others. The old man's face turned colder as he looked at Lin Ling. It seemed as though he was about to make a move. Clearly, he didn't believe that Lin Ling and the others would be able to take out 40 million royal crystals. In the arena, as long as one called out a price, the consequences would be dire if one didn't take out the money. After all, this was a bet. It wasn't a game. You bunch of trash, can you shut up? Shut up. Just as the old man was about to make a move, Lin Ling waved his right hand and a pouch flew towards the old man. The old man frowned as he caught it. He raised his head and looked at Lin Ling in disbelief. 40 million royal crystals, not a single cent less. Shut up. As soon as the words left his mouth, everyone was shocked. Even Wangu Wuji stared at Lin Ling in shock. As for Lin Hongkai and the others, they felt as though they were ducks that had been grabbed by the neck. Their faces were as ugly as it could get. There really was 40 million royal crystals. How could a commoner take out 40 million royal crystals? I wonder who is more like a commoner compared to his 40 million royal crystals? Furthermore, all of you tried to recruit him in such a lofty manner. Don't you feel embarrassed now? Humph. Chapter 3296. This young man is mine. Humph. Humph. Lin Hongkai and the rest snorted coldly as they sat back down in shame. With 40 million emperor crystals on hand, they were obviously more like commoners than Lin Ling. I'll bet on the short young man. All right. At this moment, Lin Ling spoke again. The old man looked at the arena and nodded his head. A cold smile appeared on his face. It was obvious that the short young man had a lower chance of winning. Naturally, he wouldn't reject Lin Ling's bet. If Lin Ling won, they would lose 40 million emperor crystals. The arena was supported by numerous superpowers. There were the Flame Emperor, the New Heavenly Court, Fu Hang Manor, and many other superpowers. There were even some small sects in the Flame Prefecture. The only reason all these superpowers supported the arena was to earn money. Kill. At the same time, the life and death battle in the arena had begun. One of them was a tall and sturdy old man. His upper body was bare, and his body was covered in scars. His aura was extremely cold. Someone recognized him. He was a sect leader from Yu Prefecture, and his strength was at the first heaven of the true saint realm. His opponent was a young man who was even shorter than Wangu Wuji. The young man was dressed in tattered clothes, and his body and face were extremely skinny. It was as though he was malnourished. However, his eyes were like those of an injured wolf as he stared at the old man. It was obvious that he knew that if the old man didn't die, he would be the one to die. However, his cultivation was only at the 10th heaven of the half-true saint realm. Kill. The old man roared and a terrifying amount of energy surged out from his body. Rumble. The two of them clashed fiercely. However, how could the young man be a match for the old man? After a few exchanges, the young man's injuries became more severe. Everyone realized that one of the young man's legs was lame. He's dead. At that moment, no one was optimistic about the young man's chances. They thought that he would die without a doubt. Lin Ling, why did you choose him? Wangu Wuji frowned. He didn't understand why Lin Ling had chosen him. Hearing this, Lin Ling smiled and shook his head without saying a word. On the contrary, Lin Hongkai and the others behind him roared with laughter. They felt extremely happy when they saw Lin Ling lose 40 million divine crystals. Rumble. The battle in the arena became more and more intense. The young man was like a kite in a storm, like a canoe in the ocean, about to be destroyed at any moment. Your life is mine. Young man, don't blame me. In this heartless world, either you die or I live. The old man shouted coldly. He knew that the young man had reached his limit. He only needed to exert a little more strength to kill the young man. At a time like this, he would not show any mercy. Rumble. However, to everyone's surprise, the youth was extremely tenacious. Despite being heavily injured several times, his thin and weak body could still stand up with great difficulty. Furthermore, he was limping as he tried to avoid the old man's attacks. Bang! After another attack, the young man finally fell to the ground, and a large amount of blood flowed out from his body. No one doubted that this thin and weak youth would die from blood loss, because he was indeed too skinny. Sigh. Wangu Wuji sighed softly when he saw the situation. 40 million emperor crystals had all gone to the arena. As for the old man in the arena, he sneered inwardly as he looked at Lin Ling. His eyes were filled with schadenfreude. 40 million emperor crystals had been generously accepted by the arena. Lin Hongkai and the others roared with laughter when they saw the old man's reaction. Someone mocked us for being worse than pigs. However, it seems like he is the one who is being mocked. Under countless gazes, the emotionless old man walked towards the young man step by step. After all, the young man had been extremely tenacious. Now that he did not want to cause any more trouble, he decided to kill the young man with his own hands. When he arrived in front of the young man, his energy surged out and he lifted the young man up. Then, he grabbed the young man's neck. The young man's eyes were cold as he looked at the old man. If you want to blame someone, blame it on your bad luck for meeting me.
The old man was a person of virtue and prestige in Yu Prefecture.
However, in Yen Prefecture, he had turned from a kind senior to a cold-blooded killer. Everything was for the sake of survival. Crack.
He exerted a little force in his hand and the young man's neck was crushed.
When they heard the sound of bones being crushed, the crowd finally laughed.
Their laughter was extremely cruel. All right, the winner has appeared.
The old man outside the arena let out a loud roar. Wait, isn't the winner determined when one of them dies and the other survives? However, at this moment, Lin Ling's voice floated out.
Everyone's eyes narrowed and then a large number of curses were heard.
The old man outside the arena sneered. He understood Lin Ling. After all, 40 million Emperor crystals had gone down the drain. No one would be able to accept it. However, in the arena, they had to accept it even if they did not want to. Just as he was about to speak, a sudden change occurred. The eyes of the youth whose neck had been crushed changed, turning pitch black.
A dagger had appeared in his hand at some point in time, and he slashed it across the air.
This dagger looked very shabby, but it was engraved with the bones of a skeleton. It was obviously an extraordinary existence. The old man could not react to the sudden appearance of the dagger because he thought the young man was already dead. Moreover, he did not expect the young man to have a fatal attack. Whoosh! However, the old man was also a sect leader. At the critical moment, boundary energy appeared on the surface of his body to block the dagger. However, the black light passed by and slashed his neck. He was stunned on the spot and the young man in his hand was powerlessly put down. Then he fell on his back. The thin and weak young man did not show any mercy.
He dragged his heavily injured body and pounced on the old man.
Under countless gazes, he cut off the old man's head. He only quietly put away the dagger when he was finally sure that the old man was dead. All around the arena, there was a deathly silence. No one could have imagined that such a scene would occur. Hee, I want this young man. However, the silence did not last long. Lin Ling's laughter was finally heard. The young man in the arena raised his head and his eyes shone with joy. That was because he had been a slave for a long time. Even if he won, no one wanted him, forcing him to continue to fight to the death in the arena. But now, he finally had a master, and he could leave the Colosseum. Amazing! Amazing! Wangu Wuji was stunned for a moment before he praised Lin Ling. He looked at Lin Ling and asked, "How did you know that he would win?" "I'm also relying on my intuition because I feel that he has something on his mind that he hasn't put down. He won't die. This desire to live is not for himself, but for other things, or for other people. As for the other slaves in the arena, the light in their eyes is mostly for themselves. The two are different." Lin Ling laughed. "You bet on him just because of that?" Wangu Wuji was shocked. Lin Ling was taking too much of a risk. Sometimes, a cultivator's strength isn't the only thing that matters. It also depends on his willpower, fighting spirit, and determination. Lin Ling shook his head. "You are really a crazy gambler," Wangu Wuji said in admiration. Chapter 3297. Victory. We've won. The old man outside the arena had a cold expression on his face. The gladiator arena had lost 40 million royal crystals, which was a huge sum of money. It represented the gladiator arena's daily income. He did not know how to explain this to the big shots. As for the people behind Lin Ling, they were speechless as if they had been slapped in the face by Lin Ling. However, Lin Ling did not pay any attention to them. Instead, he looked at the old man outside the arena. When the old man saw this, he immediately handed over 80 million royal crystals to Lin Ling. "There are 80 million royal crystals here." When his voice drifted out, the entire gladiator arena fell silent. Many people's gazes towards Lin Ling had quietly changed. Obviously, the old man had done this on purpose. This was also a waste of his time. However, Lin Ling only smiled faintly in the face of everyone's strange gazes. He took the royal crystals without hiding anything. Although he did not want to be a thorn in their side, he would not spit out the fat meat on the knife's edge in front of 40 million royal crystals. He even guessed that with so many people in the arena, someone might have recognized him. However, what would come would come. When the time came, he would think about how to deal with it. "Where's my slave?" Then, Lin Ling said faintly. In fact, apart from the 40 million royal crystals, Lin Ling also had his eyes on the young man. "Leave it to him." The old man was still smiling, but his smile was cold. Then, the limping young man was overjoyed. He left the arena and walked toward Lin Ling. Then, he appeared beside Lin Ling and stood quietly like a loyal guard. Obviously, he knew that the young man who had saved him had offended the arena. "Master," he shouted in a low voice. Lin Ling waved his hand. "You don't have to call me master. From now on, you're no longer a slave." As soon as he finished speaking, the brocade pouch that the old man had given him appeared in his right hand. Not only did it contain the Emperor Crystal, it also contained the slave enchantment that could control the young man's life. However, Lin Ling's left hand continued to point and break those barriers. The youth immediately noticed that the slave enchantment engraved in the depths of his soul was gradually disappearing. He couldn't help but look at Lin Ling in surprise. "I'm not interested in slaves. I'm helping you because I don't want you to be buried here. Right now, you can leave on your own, or you can stay by my side," Lin Ling said indifferently. The young man looked at Lin Ling in surprise. He could sense the aura of a superior being coming from the young man in front of him, as if he was a god. This made him have a feeling that he couldn't miss this great one. Otherwise, he would definitely regret it. "This subordinate is willing to follow Darren." The young man knelt down on one knee. "Have you made up your mind? Following me might be very dangerous." "Milord, this subordinate has thought it over. Furthermore, this subordinate's life was saved by Milord. Without Milord, this subordinate would have died long ago," the boy said firmly. "Very well, then you'll follow me from now on." Lin Ling nodded his head. This young man's aura was similar to Do Kanying's. With Do Kanying's guidance, he would definitely be a good seedling. This fellow, Wangu Wuji, who was standing by the side, nodded his head inwardly. Lin Ling's actions were clearly better than using the slave enchantment to control the young man. After all, it was impossible to rely on forceful methods to make someone submit wholeheartedly. He realized that although Lin Ling seemed to be low-key, he was actually hiding the domineering aura of a king. Everyone retracted their gazes from Lin Ling and stared at the arena. The battle was still intense. It was a pity that the slaves weren't as lucky as the young man. Even if they won, they had to prepare for the next life and death battle before dying. Lin Ling didn't place any more bets. Luck could only be used once, and he didn't want to lose everything. As for the old man outside the arena, when he saw that Lin Ling was so calm and no longer placing any bets, he cursed in his heart. After the battle in the arena ended, it was time for the cultivators and slaves to fight. This was the best time for the cultivators to look for money. Of course, it was also dangerous. As soon as the arena was opened, the surroundings were in an uproar. "Lin Ling, are you interested?" Wangu Wuji asked as he looked at Lin Ling. This made Lin Ling curious. Wangu Wuji immediately explained, according to the rules of the arena, the participants can only be of the same cultivation realm. Furthermore, they have to fight 10 consecutive battles before they can leave. If they win, they will win a large amount of royal crystals. Of course, this is also a test for the cultivators. Lin Ling's eyes lit up when he heard this. He was currently stuck at a bottleneck and he was lacking royal crystals. As long as there was a chance for him to look for money, Lin Ling didn't want to miss it. After all, he guessed that he wouldn't be able to stay in the Great Change Nebula sect for long. "I'll go first." When Wangu Wuji saw the battle intent in Lin Ling's eyes, a smile appeared on his face. He knew that Lin Ling would definitely dare to go. Although not everyone dared to challenge the battle of life and death in the gladiator arena unless they had a certain amount of confidence in their own strength, Lin Ling was no ordinary person. Humph. Wangu Wuji is actually going to fight. He's courting death. When Lin Hongkai and the others saw Wangu Wuji jumping off the arena, they rejoiced in his misfortune. The moment Wangu Wuji landed, an old man with antlers appeared in the arena. His cultivation realm was the same as Wangu Wuji's. They were both in the first heaven of the true sage realm. Die! The old man suddenly transformed into a huge stag. His speed was terrifying, reaching 120 times the speed of a human. His speed had already surpassed many early-stage true sages. However, it was a pity that he was facing someone from the Wangu clan. Wangu Wuji immediately unleashed his desolate god bloodline. The moment his blood claw appeared, a storm of blood appeared. Wangu Wuji won the first battle. That move seems to be the 32nd move of the Music of Darkness. That person is from the Wangu clan. Everyone's eyes lit up, and some of the experts started to make guesses. Wangu Wuji won the second battle. When it came to the 10th battle, the crowd went into an uproar. After all, Wangu Wuji was the first person to win the 10th battle. As for Wangu Wuji, he was panting heavily as he fought against 10 First Heaven True Saints. Furthermore, they were all powerful slaves. He was completely exhausted. As for Lin Hongkai and the others, all of them were cursing Wangu Wuji. However, the results disappointed them. Wangu Wuji won the 10th battle. Clap, clap, clap. Lin Ling was the first to clap when he saw the results. Since he had bet 10 million Emperor Crystals on Wangu Wuji, it was only natural that he had profited. Brother Wangu, you're amazing. When Wangu Wuji returned, Wangu Fengyun and the others couldn't help but praise him. It's just a fluke. Battles like this get harder as the battle progresses. After all the slaves who can fight have gone through life and death battles. Their strength is at least 2 times stronger than ordinary First Heaven True Sages. Chapter 3298. Lin Ling's Battle. Lin Ling could sense that Wangu Wuji was showing signs of a breakthrough. It seemed like the effects of this battle were pretty good. Big brother, Meng Lu, are you guys going to play? Lin Ling turned to the side and asked. However, Meng Lu and Wangu Wuji had solemn expressions on their faces. It was obvious that they had sensed that the slaves weren't weak. In the end, they shook their heads. Generally speaking, only 2 out of 10 people would be able to walk out alive. It wasn't something they could enter with their current strength. As expected of a lowly commoner. Cowardly like a mouse. People like you will only be like this for the rest of your lives. Right at that moment, a mocking voice sounded from behind them. It was Lin Hongkai. Since you're so strong, why don't you give it a try? Indra sneered when he heard Lin Hongkai's words. His words caused Lin Hongkai's face to freeze. If you don't dare, then stop spouting nonsense. Meng Lu sneered. Learn from Wangu Wuji. At least he dares to fight. But you? You're just a stray dog. Everyone was enraged. As for Lin Hongkai, he gritted his teeth. He refused to believe that he was weaker than Wangu Wuji. I'll fight the next battle. He leaped into the air, causing the entire arena to fall silent. The old man standing at the side of the arena frowned. This batch of slaves isn't weak. Don't worry. I'm the disciple of the Flaming Emperor. Why would I be afraid? With a roar, Lin Hongkai landed directly on the arena. His opponent was a one-armed man. His long hair hung loosely behind him, and his eyes were as cold as ice. It was as though he had gone through the greatest torture in his life. I'll kill you! Lin Hongkai roared as he unleashed his full strength. His opponent wasn't weak either, and he clashed with Lin Hongkai in an instant. Is the arena supposed to warn him? Indra suddenly asked when he saw Lin Hongkai fighting. His words stunned Wangu Wuji and the others. They quickly regained their senses. The old man seemed to have warned Lin Hongkai earlier. However, the old man didn't bother to warn the others. The Flaming Emperor is backing the arena. No wonder the old man warned him. Wangu Wuji said coldly. In fact, many people had also seen this detail. They were all secretly cursing the unfairness, but they did not dare to act out. Rumble. At this moment, the battle in the arena was getting more and more intense. As a disciple of the Flame Emperor, Lin Hongkai's strength was not to be underestimated. She had actually won 5 rounds in a row. His entire being became complacent as he looked at Sakura and the others with contempt. However, the opponent in the 6th round was extremely powerful. Lin Hongkai had to use all of her strength to barely kill her opponent. Motherfucker, trash, what's the use of not dying? You actually injured me. After tearing her opponent apart, Lin Hongkai was clearly infuriated. She kept cursing. Lin Hongkai, aren't you very arrogant? You still have 4 matches. Let's see how you're going to win. Sakura and the others could also see that Lin Hongkai had reached her limit and was now crazily counterattacking. Lin Hongkai was enraged. She crazily attacked her 7th opponent. After she was seriously injured again, she finally killed her opponent.
She even stepped on his corpse to vent her anger. But it was obviously impossible for him to win the 8th round.
Seeing this, the crowd sneered.
This arrogant young man was in trouble. As for the other disciples of the Flame Emperor, their faces were gloomy. Could it be that they could only watch as Lin Hongkai died in the arena?
You should leave.
However, at this moment, the elder suddenly spoke. This time, the entire arena was in an uproar. This was because the rules of the arena stated that no one could leave without fighting 10 rounds. This rule had always been unbreakable.
All right.
However, Lin Hongkai could not care less. She immediately strode away. This was because she did not have the confidence to win the next round.
What do you mean by that?
This is too unfair.
Yeah, who's the person behind the arena? Come out and speak. Give us justice.
Voices of unwillingness rang out one after another.
Shut up.
However, the elder outside the arena shouted angrily. This also let the crowd know that Lin Hongkai was related to the owner of the arena. Suddenly, the crowd did not dare to object. The elder also wanted this matter to be over quickly. Hence, the next battle began immediately.
Roar! Roar!
A 5-meter-tall giant appeared in the arena at this moment. This giant's strength was at the peak of the Sage-to-Be realm. The combat strength of the arena has started to decline. Who dares to fight a peak Sage-to-Be realm expert? The old man said indifferently, but his eyes were vaguely looking in Lin Ling's direction.
Aren't you guys very powerful?
Go on, go on. I don't think you can win this battle.
You are a coward if you don't go.
At this moment, Lin Hongkai was also seizing the opportunity to sneer harshly. He was venting his displeasure towards Lin Ling and the others. A piece of trash who relied on the help of others to escape death dares to speak? This time, Wangu Wuji mocked. His words made Lin Hongkai and the rest grit their teeth. They could not refute him. However, at this moment, Lin Ling also stood up. This shocked Sakura and the rest. Is Lin Ling going to fight? I will fight this battle. Indeed, Lin Ling said indifferently. Everyone turned to look at Lin Ling. No one had expected that the delicate young man would dare to fight. After all, many of them had sensed that the elder outside the arena was trying to lure Lin Ling and the rest to fight.
You have guts.
If you win, the arena will reward you with 3 million royal crystals. The old man immediately laughed. His laughter was very cold. 3 million royal crystals was a huge sum of money to many cultivators. Of course, Lin Ling did not want to miss out on such a huge sum of royal crystals. I will bet 40 million royal crystals on myself, Lin Ling said as he looked at Wangu Wuji. Brother Wuji, can you lend me 40 million royal crystals? Previously, Lin Ling had won a total of 90 million royal crystals. However, he did not take them out. This made Wangu Wuji suspicious. However, he nodded his head in agreement. After Lin Ling placed his bet, he floated into the arena. Crazed cries rang out from all around him. Kill him! Kill him! Tear him apart! I want to see his corpse being torn apart by 5 horses. It had to be said that many cultivators were bloodthirsty. They wanted to see a bloody scene. What a bunch of perverts! Sakura and the rest said coldly as they looked at the arena. A trace of worry could be seen in their eyes. Although Lin Ling was strong, this was the arena of the Flame Province. The slaves gathered here were not weak. After all, even an expert like Wangu Wuji had only won 10 battles by luck. Lin Ling naturally knew about their worries. However, he dared to enter the arena because he wanted to break through to the next cultivation realm. This was also the reason why he did not take out his royal crystals to bet. He had already used them to refine them. Roar! Roar! Chapter 3299. The Final Battle. This fist contained 70% of his strength. It was the Strength King's step. Furthermore, this giant also had one of the 100 great bloodlines, the bloodline of the Non-Tung Strength God. As expected of a lowly commoner, money is more important than life. Lin Hongkai and the others were gloating. Lin Ling's eyes flickered when he saw the terrifying punch coming his way. He could clearly feel that the punch was extraordinary and was coming for his life. Ka ka ka! The dragon bones in Lin Ling's body and the realm-swallowing beast were all riled up. He also threw out a punch. Bang! The sound of this collision was deafening. Lin Ling was also immediately sent flying. It looked like he was not a match at all. Ka ka ka. However, Lin Ling could feel the blood and qi in his body churning, and his dantian was also shaking. But because of this, the speed at which he refined the Emperor crystals increased. Again. Lin Ling sneered. He hadn't used his full strength in the previous punch. He wanted to use the other party to speed up his cultivation. Bang bang bang. In the arena, the big one and the small one continued to clash. It was as if the sky was falling and the earth was splitting apart. At first, people were cheering excitedly, but gradually, they felt that something was wrong. That was because the young man was repeatedly injured, but he didn't die. It was as if the young man wasn't using his full strength at all. Your role is over. In the end, Lin Ling said coldly. The power of 900 worlds erupted. Boom. With a single punch, the giant's chest was blasted open, and blood rained down like rain. This scene shocked the crowd. Because the strength of that tall giant wasn't weak at all. It possessed the energy of 800 worlds, and coupled with its formidable world essence, it could be ranked at the top amongst the peak of the half-saint realm. However, he was killed by a single punch. This result was far too shocking. However, Lin Ling did not stop and continued to fight. Zong Ma Go. The old man said coldly. A monster with the body of a horse and the head of a human appeared. Its horse body was blood red, and it also had 2 human arms. It was extremely thick, and it held a large blade in its hand. It let out a horse-like neigh, and then it charged toward Lin Ling with murderous intent. Lin Ling was the same as before, using his opponents to train himself. However, this monster called Zong Ma was extremely vicious and merciless. Each of his moves was more ferocious than the previous one. He wanted to kill Lin Ling alive. In the end, Lin Ling unleashed the power of 1,000 worlds and blasted the head of the human-headed monster apart. Next battle. Lin Ling's body was already dyed red with blood, but his fighting spirit was boiling. Moreover, his killing intent was extremely dense. In the third battle, Lin Ling did the same. After tempering himself for a while, he blasted his opponent to death. The fourth battle. The fifth battle. The sixth battle. Everyone witnessed the battle with their own eyes and immediately shouted crazily, because Lin Ling's methods were simple and crude, which also stimulated the bloodthirst in their hearts. He's so powerful? After the sixth battle, the old man's face became more and more unpleasant. This was because Lin Ling had already placed a huge bet. In addition to the royal crystals that Lin Ling had won previously, he could not let Lin Ling leave alive. Ghost Hedgehog fight. The slaves that he called out were all the strongest trump cards in the same realm. The opponent of the seventh battle was actually a man with spikes all over his body like a hedgehog. If one looked carefully, those spikes were poisonous. As soon as he entered the arena, he did not give Lin Ling any time to rest. He immediately went against Lin Ling. This opponent was obviously very powerful and brought a lot of trouble to Lin Ling. Those spikes made Lin Ling hesitate. Most importantly, he was also stabbed by the spikes and was poisoned. He was a little dizzy. However, after the poison entered Lin Ling's body, it also stimulated the operation of his dantian, and the speed of refining the royal crystals became faster. Second brother. Sakura and the others did not understand the situation and were extremely worried at this moment. On the other hand, Lin Hongkai and the others were excited. They wished that they could see Lin Ling being pierced 1,000 times. Unfortunately, they were going to be disappointed. After a period of time, Lin Ling erupted with 1,200 world power and forcibly broke those spikes. Then, he tore that sinister man apart. The eighth battle. The opponent that appeared was an old woman. She was wearing a large cloak and her entire body was dirty. Her hair was also scattered casually, giving off a gloomy feeling. After she appeared, she immediately chanted an incantation, causing Lin Ling to enter a strange realm. In this realm, he killed all his family and friends, almost going crazy. It's forbidden Granny High. Many people looked at the ugly old woman and secretly nodded. That old woman's notoriety spread far and wide. She was an extremely vicious and merciless existence. Tessa, young man, you're dead. Seeing Lin Ling's almost crazy appearance, that old woman also revealed her yellow front teeth. It was as disgusting as it could be. Then, she walked towards Lin Ling step by step. She took out a small black knife. It was obviously a poisonous thing. She wanted to assassinate Lin Ling. In the end,
She also easily assassinated Lin Ling, which made her very happy. Ugly woman, you should die. However, just after the assassination attempt, a cold voice came from behind her.
Then, a sword slashed over and cut the old woman in half.
Only then did people realize that another Lin Ling had appeared behind the old woman. Moreover, it was exactly the same. Illusion. An old man let out a low voice. The battle had reached this point, and this young man finally used other methods. And the 9th battle came immediately. The arrival of this battle also made Lin Ling realize that he was getting closer and closer to breaking through. Therefore, he still endured and did not erupt with his full strength. He relied on his physical body and world essence to meet the other party head-on. In an instant, the arena was dyed red with the blood of the two people. Just as everyone thought that Lin Ling was exhausted, Lin Ling won by a fluke. It's time to end this. Wangu Wuji knew that Lin Ling had reached his limit, so he stopped the 10th battle. The 10th battle. The old man at the side of the arena said coldly. I said it's over. Wangu Wuji stood up immediately. Socrateon and the others did the same as well. The rules of the arena state that the battle cannot be stopped until the 10th battle is over. The old man said without even looking at Wangu Wuji. Why didn't you say anything when someone broke the rules earlier? Wangu Wuji's face was as cold as ice. The rules of the arena state that the battle cannot be stopped until the 10th battle is over. Clearly, the old man did not want to talk about the previous matter. Kill, 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 kill. At the same time, the people around the arena started to shout. They would not allow Lin Ling to leave. They wanted nothing more than to tear Lin Ling to shreds. Bastard! Wangu Wuji and the others could only return to their seats helplessly. However, they clenched their fists tightly, and their eyes turned red. As long as Lin Ling's life was in danger, they would definitely break the rules and save him. Even though Socrateon and the others knew that Lin Ling still had many trump cards up his sleeves, they could not deny that Lin Ling was heavily injured. Slaves were all vicious and merciless. They would be able to deal a fatal blow before they died. Even if Lin Ling still had trump cards up his sleeves, what use would it be if he died? Little friend, you are really strong. Chapter 3300. Tribulation of a Sage. I was just lucky. Haha. Lin Ling chuckled. He could tell that the middle-aged man wasn't weak at all. His innate talent was at the half-desolate body. I'm sorry, but I broke through. Haha. The moment Lin Ling finished speaking, the middle-aged man sneered. His cultivation realm had entered the sage realm and he had reached the 3rd heaven of the sage realm. He broke through. Haha. Interesting. This is getting more and more interesting. Haha. When the crowd saw what had happened, they started to laugh crazily. Most of them had bet on Lin Ling to lose. This is against the rules. This is a battle between sage realm experts. Haha. Sakura and the others glared at the middle-aged man and started to shout. The rules of the battle stated that it was a battle between people of the same cultivation realm. However, a sage realm expert had appeared, so it didn't count. The slave broke through during the battle, so it's not against the rules. Haha. The old man replied coldly. His eyes were filled with a sinister light. It was obvious that the arena had done something. Broke through during the battle? Can the arena be any more shameless? Firstly, they hadn't fought yet. Secondly, even if the slave broke through during the battle, who could reach the 3rd heaven of the sage realm in an instant? It was obvious that the slave was at the 3rd heaven of the sage realm. Haha. Wangu Wuji sneered coldly. What you said is merely a guess. Because it's a guess, the arena doesn't think it's valid. Continue the battle. Haha. When the old man heard Wangu Wuji's words, he felt a little guilty. However, he still spoke coldly. The killing intent in his eyes was extremely dense. That's right. Continue the battle. Haha. The crowd started to chime in, and the atmosphere in the arena reached its peak. Little friend, I didn't want things to turn out this way. After all, I'm not the one who has the final say in breaking through. Haha. At this moment, the middle-aged man in the arena had a cold smile on his face. Then he attacked. 80% of his cultivation realm energy exploded out. His boundary essence was like an ocean as it rushed towards Lin Ling. Puh. Before the energy could reach him, Lin Ling, who was injured, spat out a mouthful of blood. However,
He was able to reach the Sage Realm expert with a speed of 150 worlds. Fang Jing. Sensing Lin Ling's terrifying speed, the middle-aged man was also shocked, but he also activated his innate talent. Immediately, four huge mirrors appeared in the arena and began to shrink. They stood up and reduced the space that Lin Ling could move around. So he's Taoist Heaven Mirror. Someone immediately recognized the middle-aged man. He was the patriarch of a family in Miao Prefecture. His strength was not weak in the 9 prefectures. Haha, that brat is fighting like a cornered beast. Soon after, many people looked at the shrinking space and sneered one after another. Lin Ling also noticed that the space around him was shrinking, and his expression turned serious. Right now, he could explode with all his trump cards and kill the middle-aged man. However, in this moment of life and death, he could sense that a breakthrough was right in front of him. Therefore, he could not kill him yet. Go to hell. At this moment, the middle-aged man clapped his hands, and a shockwave blasted forward. It was extremely powerful, and the most terrifying thing was that after the shockwave collided with the surrounding spatial mirrors, it actually started rebounding. Moreover, it rebounded more and more, causing the spatial mirrors to be filled with shockwaves. Rumble. No matter how fast Lin Ling was, it was impossible for him to dodge the shockwave and he was sent flying. He's dead. This time, a cruel smile appeared on the old man's face. He felt that his anger had been vented. Attack. Take Lin Ling away and leave immediately. Go. Wangu Wuji and the others leaped up from their seats and prepared to break through the barrier. However, before they could do so, the dark clouds in the sky started to rumble. A terrifying aura descended from the heavens. It was as though a god was looking down on the world. Sage's tribulation? Everyone was shocked when they sensed the aura. The most terrifying thing was that the tribulation clouds in the sky were different from the ones they had seen in the past. Lightning flashed, and thunder rumbled. Instead of smashing down, the tribulation clouds were filled with ferocious chi, devil chi, ghost chi, dragon chi, and killing intent. All kinds of heaven and earth energy gathered together and formed a dragon-like lightning. This time, the might of the tribulation clouds was even greater. This was the first time anyone had seen a sage's tribulation. Under the dark clouds, Lin Ling felt an immense pressure on his body. In fact, inner demons were starting to appear in his heart. One had to know that there were no inner demons in the half-true sage tribulation. These inner demons were actually the people Lin Ling had killed in the past. There were many of them, and all of them charged towards Lin Ling as though they wanted to drag Lin Ling into the netherworld. Scram! Scram! However, Lin Ling's martial heart was extremely firm. Not only was he not afraid, he formed a giant sword with his soul force and slashed it towards the inner demons. However, the inner demons did not stop there. In the next moment, Lady Xueqi Wu and the others appeared. These were the people who had died in the holy land of the rainforest. This time, Lin Ling was unable to use his sword. I owe all of you a favor. Whatever you want, come at me. Lin Ling gave up on defending himself. The inner demons charged over and began to devour Lin Ling's soul. Lin Ling allowed them to devour his soul. Time passed bit by bit. However, although Lin Ling's soul was devoured, it was still not destroyed. Why don't you die? This caused the inner demons to shout ferociously. Because if I die, who will bring all of you back from the netherworld? Lin Ling raised his head and said word by word. This was a powerful determination and grand goal. He wanted to sweep through the netherworld and bring back all of his friends and family. Boom! Under his voice, all the inner demons exploded. Instead, Lady Xueqi Wu and the others appeared. They looked at Lin Ling and smiled with relief. Lin Ling, we will wait for you. Then, all the inner demons disappeared, as if they had never appeared. This scene seemed slow, but to the people outside, it happened in the blink of an eye. Sage Tianjing, quick, stop him. At this moment, there were a lot of voices around the arena. Everyone wanted to see Lin Ling fail in his breakthrough. From Lin Ling's sage's tribulation, if Lin Ling succeeded in his breakthrough, he would definitely be a terrifying sage. However, there was no need for them to remind him. The middle-aged man's eyes were red as he attacked. Boom! However, before he could get close to Lin Ling, the dragon-shaped lightning in the sky exploded. The 4 mirrors shattered instantly. The middle-aged man vomited blood and was sent flying. Rumble! The power of the sage's tribulation was extremely terrifying,
causing the entire arena to fall silent. However, it came quickly and disappeared quickly, causing the entire arena to fall silent for a moment. Everyone was wondering if the young man had succeeded in breaking through. He failed. He must have failed. However, many people were shaking their heads. They couldn't wait to see Lin Ling go berserk. However, when all kinds of energy rolled on the ground, footsteps were finally heard. "I'm sorry, but I've also broken through." Chapter 3301. Killed with a single arrow. After the voice drifted out, the arena became even quieter. The faces of the big shots from the various forces in the 9 prefectures turned cold. Even though many of them didn't know who this young man was, the Saint Tribulation from before allowed them to realize that this young man would definitely be extraordinary in the future if he were to grow up. Now that the young man had successfully entered the Sage Realm, there was one more person who could not be underestimated in the pyramid of the 9 prefectures. Whoosh! At that moment, there were still electric snakes wreaking havoc on the ground of the arena. Lin Ling stood amidst the scattered thunderbolts and smiled at the middle-aged man. At the same time, he was checking his own cultivation level. To his surprise, all 4 of his Dantians had stepped into the first level of the Saint Realm. It was no wonder that the previous sage's tribulation was so powerful and could gather all kinds of energy. The reason was because of Lin Ling's 4 Dantians. Fortunately, Lin Ling had prepared for a long time in order to break through to the Saint Realm, and he had prepared all sorts of treasures. Therefore, he successfully broke through. Of course, the 80 million divine crystals had been completely consumed. "I didn't expect to spend so many royal crystals to break through to the Saint stage." Lin Ling shook his head. 10 million royal crystals were enough for an ordinary Saint Realm cultivator, and the 10 million included the treasures that the Saint needed for his cultivation. However, Lin Ling needed 80 million royal crystals just to make a breakthrough. The gap between them was obvious. Looks like the opening of the 5th Dantian will have to be delayed again. While Lin Ling was constantly checking himself, the middle-aged man's expression kept changing. Previously, he had broken through and wanted to crush this young man. Who would have thought that this young man would break through as well? This was like a vicious slap to his face. Most importantly, he also saw that this young man was not an ordinary sage's tribulation. He was definitely not weak. "Why are you in a daze? Go and kill him." Seeing that the middle-aged man was very cautious, an angry roar immediately came from the side of the arena. "If you still don't make a move, then you'll definitely die once that young man wakes up. After all, this is a life-and-death arena," some old men said emotionlessly. Their words made the middle-aged man come back to his senses. Indeed, although the young man couldn't be underestimated, this was a battle of life and death. Thinking of this, he began to walk forward, but he was still cautious. However, at this moment, Lin Ling slowly raised his eyes and looked at the middle-aged man indifferently. With merely a single glance, a wisp of indescribable pressure assaulted him, and it caused the middle-aged man's heart to tremble. It felt as if he'd seen a god. He did not know why he was afraid, but he had a feeling that the young man was looking at him as if he was looking at an ant. It was like the young man had killed many at the initial stage of the Saint Realm. "You've violated the rules. This is the battlefield of the peak of the half-Saint Realm. However, you're already at the first layer of the Saint Realm. Violating the rules is equivalent to challenging the arena. You'll only end up dead. I'll give you a chance. Kill yourself." Suppressing the shock in his heart, the middle-aged man immediately said coldly, "Then, aren't you a saint? Why don't you give yourself a chance to commit suicide?" Hearing this, Lin Ling smiled mockingly. "Me?" The middle-aged man couldn't refute. He was just looking for an excuse to make Lin Ling commit suicide. "It seems like you're very afraid of me." At this moment, Lin Ling spoke again, and his words caused the middle-aged man's eyes to narrow. "However, it's normal for you to be afraid of me, because it's just a move for me to kill you," Lin Ling said coldly. After he finished speaking, he waved his right hand, and a huge dragon bow appeared. The dragon god was roaring, and its aura was extremely terrifying. After reaching the Saint Realm, he was now like a saint. With the combination of his 4 Dantians and the dragon bone, the power of the calamity-destroying sun bow had more than doubled. After the shocking bone bow appeared, the entire arena was in an uproar. It had to be said that the huge dragon bone bow was really awe-inspiring. I feel like I've seen this bow before. However, there were also people who frowned. As for the middle-aged man, his expression changed drastically. He could feel a huge pressure from the dragon bow, as if it was a divine ability of the dragon tribe. He immediately activated his powerful talent, and many mirrors appeared in front of him. His defense was extremely strong. The moment you're afraid of me, you're already dead. However, in the face of the middle-aged man's powerful aura, Lin Ling only spoke indifferently. After he finished speaking, the dragon bow in his hand shot out. The 4 dragons intertwined and roared continuously. It was as if the gods were pointing at the middle-aged man. Wow! Countless people in the arena stood up when they sensed the terrifying aura. The power of the arrow was so strong that many Saint Realm experts did not dare to take it head-on. You want to kill me? Dream on! The middle-aged man's expression was extremely solemn. His life and death depended on this moment. He had never thought that the outcome would be like this. After all, he had entered the arena with confidence. He had thought that he would be free after killing this young man. However, who would have thought that the young man who looked like a half-Saint Realm expert would have the power to reverse the situation in the blink of an eye? However, he was still an outstanding person in the 3rd heaven of the Saint Realm. Although he was surprised by Lin Ling's strength, he was confident that if he went all out, Lin Ling would not be able to kill him. However, it was a pity that he had underestimated the power of the great calamity-destroying Sun Bow. This was one of the 8 divine powers of the dragon tribe. It was protected by the heavenly dragon. Killing demons and destroying gods was a piece of cake for it. Clang! The sound of glass shattering echoed. The countless square mirrors shattered one by one as they were pierced through by the arrow. How is this possible? When the middle-aged man realized this, he cried out in panic. This was because his innate talent could reflect his opponent's attack like a mirror. However, now that the mirrors were shattered, the power of the arrow was too terrifying. At the same time, a huge dragon god's arrow was enlarging in his eyes. I admit defeat. The middle-aged man shouted as the smell of death descended upon him. He had completely forgotten that this was a battle of life and death. How could he admit defeat? Looking at it from another angle, if Lin Ling admitted defeat, would he let Lin Ling go? The answer was obviously no. Therefore, how could Lin Ling let him go? Boom! Under countless gazes, the expert at the 3rd level of the Saint Realm was blasted apart. It was like a lantern being blasted apart. The scene was extremely spectacular. This caused the arena to fall silent for a moment. Then, bloodthirsty cheers rang out. He had shot a 3rd heaven of the Saint Realm. This was obviously the scene that everyone was looking forward to. This is insane! When Lin Ling heard the crazy cheers around him, he shook his head and put away the dragon bow. He turned around and left. Many people were looking at him. Some of them had complicated expressions, some of them were excited, and some of them had killing intent in their eyes. He won. The old man at the edge of the arena had a gloomy expression on his face. Lin Ling had won again. Their arena had lost a huge sum of money again. Most importantly, he had not seen Lin Ling die with his own eyes. Moreover, Lin Ling had broken through to the next realm in front of him. Chapter 3302. Forcing me? Hold it! He hollered and stopped Lin Ling from leaving. You are in the Sage Realm and not the half-step Sage Realm. You have broken the rules. You have to fight 10 more battles in the Sage Realm before you win. The old man said coldly. His words caused the eyes of Xueqi and the others to narrow. Lin Ling wanted to continue fighting? What kind of rules were those? What a joke. That middle-aged man was also in the Sage Realm. Why don't you say that he broke the rules? Lin Ling sneered when he heard what the old man said. Furthermore, he was the one who broke the rules first. I only entered the Sage Realm after that. How am I breaking the rules? The rules are as such. Even I can't change them. The old man said expressionlessly. You can only continue fighting. He was clearly trying to twist the rules. That's right. He should continue fighting. What do you guys think? Voices rang out from the side of the arena. It was Lin Hongkai and the others. Naturally, they couldn't stand by and watch Lin Ling show off. The moment the words left their mouths, the arena erupted into an uproar. Many of them weren't targeting Lin Ling. They just wanted to see blood and vent their desires. For example,
Watching a saint with outstanding talent fall was also something they liked to see. Fight, fight, fight. You have to continue fighting. That's right. I want to help you, but you broke the rules. There's no other way. 10 more battles. Their voices were so loud that it seemed as though they wanted to flip the arena upside down. Many of them had bloodthirsty looks in their eyes. Lin Ling's face turned ugly when he saw what was going on. Wangu Wuji and the others felt the same way. What if I don't fight? Lin Ling barked coldly. Then you won't be able to leave. The old man sneered. Lin Ling was already going against the entire arena. Lin Ling didn't have a choice. Swish, swish, swish. With a wave of his hand, more than a dozen powerhouses in armor appeared at the edge of the arena. Clang. Powerful extreme weapons were also raised, blocking Lin Ling's path of escape. Please return to the arena. At the same time, neat and cold voices floated out. The arena was forcing Lin Ling to go back and fight again. Moreover, all of these experts were at the Saint Realm, and they were extremely formidable. Most importantly, they were only a portion of the experts in the entire gladiator arena. If all of them were to attack, then Lin Ling would have no choice. Are you going to fight or not? The old man laughed sinisterly as if he was in control of Lin Ling's life and death. He was even thinking that as long as Lin Ling was defeated, he would not let Lin Ling die. He wanted Lin Ling to be his slave. This was the result of offending the gladiator arena. However, in the face of the aggressive gladiator arena, Lin Ling could only smile. Forcing Lin Ling? Lin Ling, had grown up in fear. From the Gu Yan sect of the past to the current Yan province, Lin Ling had experienced a lot of oppression. When had he ever been afraid? Clang. Lin Ling also drew his sword directly. With the Tyrant Song sword in hand, it was as if he was going to cut down the world. I'd like to see how the gladiator arena is going to force me. He slashed out with his sword. This sword came from the era of the gods. This was 70% of the demon's sword rank. In addition to the fusion of Lin Ling's 4 dantians, the power of this sword was extremely terrifying. Clang! The extreme weapons that collided with it were all cut apart. Moreover, those experts wearing armor had sparks appear on their armor as they were slashed apart by the sword. Following that, their entire bodies were also split in 2. This sword undoubtedly shocked the entire gladiator arena. How dare you kill our people? The old man's eyes narrowed. Their gladiator arena was able to continue operating in the Yen province because of its deep foundation. Over the years, as long as one heard about the background of the gladiator arena, no one dared to behave atrociously here. However, that young man dared to attack. He's crazy. At the edge of the gladiator arena, many people also stood up as if they had seen the most unbelievable thing in their lives. This was because if Lin Ling were to fight, he would still have a chance to live. However, if he were to fight head-on with the gladiator arena, he would definitely die. No matter how strong Lin Ling was, he would definitely not be able to shake the gladiator arena. When you forced me, these people were already dead. Lin Ling's sword did not stop. Bloody light flashed as he continued to slash at those experts who were blocking his way. These experts were only at the early stage of the sage stage. At present, Lin Ling was not afraid of them. Do you know what you're doing? Seeing that Lin Ling was so unscrupulous, the old man roared again. I'm going to kill your people. With the last slash of his sword, all the experts who were blocking his way were killed. You're going to kill my people? Can you kill the entire gladiator arena? Kill him. The old man hadn't expected that Lin Ling would become more and more arrogant, and he roared loudly. In an instant, even more Saint Realm experts attacked, and there were many at the advanced stage of the Saint Realm amongst them. Moreover, Lin Ling couldn't stop them. From this point of view, the strength of the gladiator arena was even more obvious. After all, late-stage sage stage experts were merely guards. Lin Ling, let me help you. However, Wangu Wuji and the others leaped over and fought alongside Lin Ling. Kill! None of them were weaklings, and they charged back at Huang Xiaolong. Looks of interest appeared on the faces of the people around them. They knew that this group of people was like a bunch of cornered beasts, and they wouldn't be able to walk out of the gladiator arena. As such, they were also admiring the battle between the cornered beasts. Among Lin Ling's group, Wangu Wuji and Lin Ling were the most ferocious. No one could block their attacks. Some people looked at Lin Ling indifferently, and they gradually guessed Lin Ling's background. So he's the son of a devil.
No wonder he's acting like this. However, this fellow is really bold. He knows that martial god Wentian is looking for him, but he still dares to appear in the flame state. It's a pity. He shouldn't be so rash. He won't be able to escape from the gladiator arena. Many of the big shots in the flame state muttered to themselves. Kill. Lin Ling's sword was decisive, and every time he slashed out, blood would flow like a river. In fact, he didn't like the people around the gladiator arena, and he didn't hold back when he attacked. Occasionally, he would kill some of the spectators. His actions had infuriated the crowd. You're courting death. Many of the spectators were from the flame state, and they were all nobles. Naturally, they would roar at Huang Xiaolong. If you're not convinced, come and kill me. Lin Ling wanted to fight against the world with his sword alone. After he finished speaking, he took the lead and flew towards Lin Hongkai. That group of people disgusted him the most. It was because of Lin Hongcai's provocative words that they had started to jeer at him. Therefore, he was the first person they wanted to kill. Didn't you guys want to recruit me? Then let me see your strength.
Lin Ling held his great sword at a slanted angle and charged over.
How dare you? Lin Hongkai and the others immediately stood up and unleashed their powerful auras. However, Lin Ling's aura was even more terrifying. The world-devouring beast appeared behind him, and its huge mouth opened as if it was going to swallow the world. It's him. More people recognized Lin Ling. As for Lin Hongkai and the others, their expressions changed drastically. He seems to be the son of a devil. Chapter 3303. Creating Havoc in the Arena. Oh God, they had offended the Devil's Son. One had to know that the Devil's Son was arrogant and domineering. He had even dared to destroy gods. Moreover, they also felt extremely ashamed. Before this, they actually tried to recruit the son of the devil. This was simply overestimating their own capabilities. After all, the Devil's Son was a member of the God Extermination Alliance. The God Extermination Alliance was famous in the 9 prefectures. Many people wanted to join it, but it was 10 times harder than the Heavenly Court. Rumble! The giant realm-devouring beast arrived and swallowed many of the experts. Spare me! I was wrong. Devil's Son, I was wrong. I was wrong. Lin Hongkai finally understood that this young man was not someone he could afford to offend. Moreover, he wanted to slap himself in the face. After all, how could Wangu Wuji be an ordinary person if he could be considered a friend? Unfortunately, he had wronged Wangu Wuji. At this moment, Wangu Wuji was shocked as well. He had never expected Lin Ling to be so terrifying when he used his full strength. Moreover, Lin Ling was the Devil's Son. The Devil's Son had always been Wangu Wuji's idol. However, not many people knew about this. Now, this idol was right beside him? Wrong? It's too late to realize your mistake now. The giant realm-devouring beast stopped in front of Lin Hongkai and let out a low growl. Spare me! Spare me! You are a great person. Treat me like a fart and let me go. Moreover, I am one of the Flame Emperor's men. Why do you have to offend him? Lin Hongkai knelt down and begged for mercy. Clearly, he was not afraid of Wangu Wuji. However, he did not have any thoughts of resisting the Devil's Son. The main reason was that the Devil's Son was too famous. Offend the Flame Emperor? The terrifying realm-devouring beast mocked. Lin Ling had already caused havoc in the arena. He had offended the Flame Emperor. Therefore, there was no need to be afraid of offending the Flame Emperor by killing one more person. Die! Without wasting any more time, the giant mouth swallowed Lin Hongkai whole. Seeing the way the realm-swallowing beast swallowed everything, everyone started to tremble. They had heard that the realm-swallowing beast could swallow anything. Now that they had seen it with their own eyes, they realized that the realm-swallowing beast did not live up to its reputation. While they were still in shock, the huge black mouth also came to devour them. Seeing this, although they were terrified, they still fought with their lives on the line. However, their strength wasn't even comparable to Wangu Wuji's, let alone Lin Ling who had just broken through. Black sludge spread out, and the aura of annihilation and destruction was extremely terrifying. Then, the pitch-black darkness engulfed those people. Moreover, they were also resisting with all their might. However,
When the attacks entered the darkness, they immediately disappeared without a trace. The world-swallowing beast, one of the four most ferocious creatures in the universe, is indeed terrifying. At this moment, the powerhouses around the arena couldn't care less about the pleasure they were feeling. All of them had solemn expressions on their faces. How dare you! In the distance, the elder let out an angry roar. This young man was actually the son of the devil, and he had killed many of the Flame Emperor's men in the arena. This was a situation that had completely severed ties with the Flame Emperor. Of course, he was also extremely shocked in his heart. If he had known that this young man was the son of the devil, he definitely wouldn't have provoked him. However, since he had already provoked him, he had no choice but to bite the bullet. I don't dare. Time-Space Divine Tablet. The huge sludge emitted an ice-cold sound. Immediately, a huge ancient tablet smashed down, smashing a corner of the arena into smithereens. This was truly a huge commotion in the gladiator arena. This was also the first time in thousands of years that something like this had happened in the arena. This fellow. When he saw Lin Ling's crazy actions, Wangu Wuji's heart trembled with fear. Although they were also killing their enemies, they couldn't compare to Lin Ling's battle. Kill them all. However, the arena was a place where powerhouses gathered. More and more powerhouses moved out, and even the spectators around the arena joined the battle. There are too many people, and many of the late-stage Sage Realm experts have yet to make a move. If this continues, we will be in danger. Sakra turned into a white bone giant as he swung his halberd, flipping over a large number of ancient stone chairs. That's right. This arena has a martial ancestor guarding it. Wangu Wuji said with a grave expression. He couldn't understand why Lin Ling was acting so crazily. This is getting more and more troublesome. We have to open an exit and escape. Meng Lu's eyes scanned the surroundings as he decided to retreat. However, at this moment, Lin Ling also flew back. The rolling sludge swam and transformed into a handsome young man. Since we can't escape, we can only continue to fight. Lin Ling stood beside Sakra and the others, and his face also started to turn solemn. Because a large number of experts had appeared in the sky and the surroundings of the arena. All of them were at the Saint Realm, and they formed layers upon layers of experts that seemed like an ocean that surrounded them. Many of them had cold smiles on their faces. It was obvious that although Lin Ling and the others were crazy, they believed that Lin Ling and the others wouldn't be able to escape from the arena. I didn't expect the son of the demon to be here. People of the new heavenly court, listen up. Capture him at all costs. A cold voice resounded as a blue-haired man floated up. His azure blue eyes stared at Lin Ling and the others. This man was the mysterious expert with the eye of the sea god that Lin Ling had met when he first entered the arena. At that time, he had already suspected Lin Ling, but he hadn't confirmed it. Now, everything was confirmed. Kill him and Wentian martial god will reward you greatly. The mysterious man spoke again. He wasn't weak as he was in the late-stage Sage Realm and possessed the ultimate desolate body. Son of the demon, you won't be able to escape. Seeing this, many people began to shout. Their killing intent was extremely dense. Son of the demon, you killed martial god Qilin. Although you managed to escape temporarily, the new heavenly court won't let you go. It's only been a few years and the new heavenly court has already found you. I can only say that under Wentian martial god's new heavenly court, you won't be able to escape. The mysterious man spoke coldly again. Hearing this, Lin Ling sneered. Can you stop farting? If I didn't appear, do you think the new heavenly court would be able to find me? Can your face be any thicker? Dang! Lin Ling's words undoubtedly infuriated the mysterious man. His eyes began to change as layers of tsunamis surged in the sky. Finally, they turned into a huge blue ancient monument that suppressed Lin Ling. Son of the demon, let's see where you can escape to. When the blue ancient tablet came crashing down, the entire arena was submerged by the sea. From afar, it was as if the arena had entered a huge bubble. Ultimate desolate body, Wentian martial god's disciple, Golden Crow. Many people recognized the mysterious man as their faces turned solemn. Chapter 3304. Space Distortion. Lin Ling, what should we do? Although Wangu Wuji and the others knew that they wouldn't be able to escape from a fierce battle, They hadn't expected to face the Golden Crow. Now that they had sensed the Golden Crow's strength, they could feel the pressure bearing down on them. They were only 10% confident that they would be able to escape. Are you the only one with a heavenly eye? Lin Ling's eyes blazed with the flames of war as he activated the time-space divine steel to suppress the Golden Crow. The blue ancient tablet descended from the sky, but on top of this ancient tablet, there was another multicolored ancient tablet that followed closely behind. This caused the huge blue ancient tablet to begin to fight against the ancient tablet in the sky. Insignificant tricks. A disdainful smile appeared on the Golden Crow's face. Trying to fight him head-on? Lin Ling doesn't know how he is going to die. Rumble. When the two steels collided, terrifying shockwaves rippled out. Following that, a world of waves and flames appeared and continued to clash. Swoosh. In the next moment, the blue steel was sent flying. It was like an ancient imperial city as it smashed into a corner of the arena. Although it was blocked by a layer of invisible energy, it still caused the entire arena to shake violently. What? The Golden Crow's face changed drastically when he saw this scene. One had to know that he had the 9 great heavenly eyes. Why couldn't it compare to the colorful steel? He furrowed his brows as he tried to figure out what was going on. However, he soon had a guess in his heart. His cultivation realm was higher than Lin Ling's, but Lin Ling was able to send his steel flying. This meant that the steel that Lin Ling had was of an ultimate desolate body as well. Furthermore, it was of a higher grade than his. That was one of the 6 great heavenly eyes. Why aren't you speaking? Weren't you very domineering earlier? Why are you acting like a mute now? Lin Ling spat out coldly when he saw the Golden Crow's silence. The latter's face turned ugly. Although Lin Ling's 6 great heavenly eyes couldn't be underestimated, the Golden Crow had merely underestimated his opponent. When I catch you, I'll tear your mouth apart. The Golden Crow also let out a low growl, and the cold air on its body became even thicker. Make your move. Do you think a few mere ants can overturn the heavens? Meanwhile, another martial progenitor realm expert arrived and stared coldly at Lin Ling and his crew. With this, Lin Ling and the rest's chances of escaping were probably not even 10%. Looks like I won't be able to escape death today. Even Wangu Wuji knew that the situation was hopeless. Dream flow, let's see who has killed more people. Sakura also knew that he couldn't escape, so he was already prepared to fight with his back to the river. Sure, do you think I'm afraid of you? Meng Lu laughed heartily. Since he couldn't escape, he might as well fight. They had all walked out of life and death calamities many times. They had long been accustomed to blood and killing. It wouldn't move them at all. As for Wangu Fengyun and the others, their faces turned deathly pale. When they thought about how they were going to die, their bodies turned soft. Not to mention fighting, they were on the verge of kneeling down and begging for mercy. Don't embarrass the Wangu clan. Wangu Wuji barked coldly. Look at them. Have they ever felt fear? His words caused Wangu Fengyun and the others to look at Sakura and the others. Their fighting spirit burned even brighter. Everyone was in the same situation, but Sakura and the other two only wanted to fight. They didn't even think about dying. The difference between the two of them was obvious. Everyone, get ready and follow me. Just as everyone was about to fight to the death, Lin Ling's voice rang out in their ears. Wangu Wuji and the others were stunned by what they heard. Since I dared to cause a ruckus in the arena, I must have thought of a way out. Even though I don't know what I'll run into, there's still a ray of hope. Lin Ling said indifferently. The reason why he had gone on a killing spree was because the arena had gone too far. On the other hand, he wasn't completely helpless. Attack! Then, Lin Ling let out a low growl. However, he didn't charge towards the sky. Instead, he charged towards the ground. Sakura and the others were stunned for a moment before they hurried to chase after him. As for the experts in the sky, they were confused at first. However, a cold sneer soon formed on their faces. Did the Devil's Son think that he could escape from their encirclement by running towards the ground? That was a dream. I've heard that when people panic, they will run in a random direction. Now that I've seen it for myself, it seems like it's true. The old man laughed mockingly as he stared at Lin Ling and the others. However, a frown slowly formed on his face. There was something wrong with the direction that Lin Ling and the others were heading in. Moreover, as Lin Ling and the others advanced, the old man's expression changed drastically. Stop them. Without any hesitation, the old man shouted anxiously. Seeing this, everyone frowned, their faces filled with suspicion. At this moment, Lin Ling and the others arrived at a corner of the gladiator arena and appeared on a very ordinary green brick. This kind of green brick was scattered all over the gladiator arena. Generally speaking, no one would pay attention to this kind of green brick, but Lin Ling knew that this green brick hid the gladiator arena's secret. The reason why Lin Ling could sense it was because of the space-time god eye. Under this green brick, he sensed a familiar aura. The ninth god eye. Staring at the green brick beneath his feet, Lin Ling let out a solemn voice. His left hand continued to move, drawing a large number of barriers. These barriers floated above his palm. Then, he heavily slammed down on the green brick. Devil's son, you can't. Seeing this, the old man panicked. Too late. Lin Ling sneered as his palm finally landed on the green brick. Kacha! A crisp sound suddenly rang out. It was like the sound of glass breaking. Everyone was puzzled. What was going on? However, in the next moment, something terrifying happened. The protective barrier at the outermost area of the arena began to shatter. One had to know that this protective barrier was extremely powerful. Previously, when Lin Ling's God Eye and the Golden Crow's Heaven Eye collided, they were unable to break through the protective barrier. From this, one could see how mysterious this protective barrier was. It could be said to be the power of a god. What happened next wasn't over yet. The entire Colosseum began to distort. That's right, it was distorting. It was as if space was being twisted and pulled, and everyone was being pulled. Some of the weaker ones were even pulled to a length of 10 meters before they were completely torn apart. Even the experts at the late stage of the Saint Realm couldn't resist such a great twisting force. What is this? The power of the ninth god, the great distortion of space? Everyone was shocked. There were countless casualties. Go down. At this moment, Lin Ling's expression was extremely solemn. This was because the space around him had also begun to distort, and a huge distorted black hole had appeared under his feet. This made him decide to take a risk and enter the distorted black hole. He was the first one to jump into the black hole. Wangu Wuji and the others were still in a daze. What did Lin Ling do? He actually destroyed the arena.
Chapter 3305.
The Ninth God's Eye. The black hole continued to twist and distort, causing the bodies of those who tried to chase after Huang Xiaolong to be twisted to death the moment they stepped into the black hole. Furthermore, the black hole quickly disappeared and appeared on the other side of the arena. However, no one dared to enter it now. Could it be that the rumors are true? The experts from the Golden Crow tribe looked at the distorted space around them and suddenly thought of something. A look of fear appeared on their faces. It was rumored that one of the 6 great god eyes was sealed in the arena, the ninth god's eye. The ninth god's eye had been sealed by the experts of the 9 prefectures. Those experts had wanted to use the ninth god's eye for themselves, but the process had failed. As such, they had used the ninth god's eye to protect the arena. Many people had heard of this rumor, but no one had been able to confirm it. However, they were certain of it now. Furthermore, the Devil's Son seemed to have broken the seal. It's over. It's over. It's over. The old man in the arena slumped weakly into the air. He knew that he was finished. The arena had been destroyed by the Devil's Son, and those experts would definitely blame him for it. They would definitely kill him. In that instant, the old man felt as though he had aged a lot. His heart was filled with regret. Did he end up in such a state because of his own selfishness? At that moment, the black hole was like a tunnel without an end. Lin Ling and the others quickly passed through it. What terrified them the most was that the space behind them was still twisting. If they were sucked into it, they would definitely die. This kind of energy is too terrifying. Wangu Wuji said with a solemn expression. He had thought that the Wangu clan had already touched the world of gods, and he had already taken half a step into the world of gods. However, after seeing it today, he finally understood how insignificant he was. Hurry up. Big brother, bring that lad along. Lin Ling led the way with a solemn expression on his face. The young man followed behind him, but he was the weakest among them. He was nearly swallowed by the black hole. Lord, don't bother about me. Hurry up and leave. The young man knew that he was a burden, and he shouted at the top of his lungs. Lin Ling,
have never abandoned my friends. Dream flow, big brother, take them with you. However, Lin Ling shook his head and stopped talking nonsense. He stared ahead and saw that the tunnel ahead was still twisting. It gave people a feeling that if the path ahead disappeared, they would all die here. But now, Lin Ling had no other choice. He could only brace himself and charge forward. He couldn't help but sigh. He also had 6 great god eyes, as did the 9th god eye, but the latter was clearly much stronger than him. Moreover, he recalled that blue-robed youth from long, long ago, Gan Liangping. He had been the first person to guide Lin Ling into the martial god world. Most importantly, that blue-robed youth also possessed 6 great god eyes. Fortunately, the black hole in front of them showed no signs of closing. On the contrary, Lin Ling and the others had finally reached the end. This was a huge space, and the surroundings were like a grid. There were intertwining spatial lines, giving off an extremely mysterious feeling. At the same time, a tall figure quietly stood there with his hands behind his back. He gave off an extremely frightening feeling. This was an old man. His hair was very long, reaching the ground. Moreover, it was pitch black, but it was as sinister as a sea urchin. And he stood there quietly without moving, causing the entire space to become extremely oppressive. The faces of Lin Ling and the others turned cold. They gathered all their strength and prepared for the unexpected. Which one of you broke this seal?
The black-haired old man finally slowly turned around, making Lin Ling and the others feel as if they were facing a great enemy. But from the front, this black-haired old man was also very visually impactful. His long robe was like a cloak, revealing the firm muscles of his chest, as if they were carved from stone. He crossed his arms, and his aura was like that of a martial god. The most frightening thing was his eyes. These eyes carried a kind of indifference, as if they could see through the end of time. If Lin Ling had killed several 100 million people in his life, then this old man had probably killed countless people. That pair of eyes was simply too terrifying.
This junior is the one who broke the seal,
Lin Ling said indifferently as the old man stared at him.
His words caused the old man to look at Lin Ling. His eyes were cold and emotionless. Breaking the seal means that I'm free.
I've been here for 80,000 years.
Sizzle.
His words caused Wangu Wuji and the others to suck in a breath of cold air. It was obvious that this old man was an ambitious and ruthless person from the post-gods era.
You guys returned my freedom. I should be thanking you. Tell me, what do you want?
The black-haired old man said again.
Juniors don't want anything. We just want to leave this place.
Lin Ling had a feeling that this old man was extremely dangerous. His strength was definitely more monstrous than the Tai-E old ancestor and the others.
Leave this place.
That old man smiled, but his smile was very cold. He didn't seem to move, but in the next moment, the space before the youth beside Sakura distorted, forming a black-haired old man. He stretched out one of his hands, and the lame youth's neck was gripped by him.
I like to kill from the weak.
His cold voice reverberated through the air, and a chill filled the air.
You dare.
The faces of Lin Ling and the others changed. One had to know that Lin Ling had broken the seal and saved the old man. However, the old man wasn't grateful to them. Instead, he wanted to kill them.
What kind of attitude was that? If you want to kill me, you can kill me.
As long as Senior releases the Lord. The moment the limping youth was grabbed, he shouted. Compared to Wangu Fengyun and the others, the limping youth wasn't afraid of death. Perhaps, his experience in the arena had caused him to develop an iron heart.
Hee hee.
The black-haired old man laughed. His laughter was extremely cruel.
You're so weak. What qualifications do you have to talk about conditions?
As soon as he finished speaking, he grabbed the youth's neck. Boom, boom, boom. At the same time, Sakura, Menglu, Wangu Wuji, and the others released their powerful auras. They were prepared to fight to the death. However, the black-haired old man shook his head. His eyebrows twitched, and his long hair stood on end. He actually controlled the spatial threads in the surrounding space. Then, the spatial threads, which seemed to be able to cut through everything, surrounded Lin Ling and the others.
Clang!
When Lin Ling saw this, he knew that a huge battle was inevitable. He immediately pulled out the tyrannical Song sword. Bloody light, killing intent, and demonic chi flowed around the sword like water. That's the sword demon's sword.
Ha!
The black-haired old man suddenly exclaimed. He turned around and looked at the sword in Lin Ling's hand. Then, he released the limping youth. Since it's an acquaintance, then forget it.
All right,
The black-haired old man said indifferently. His words shocked Lin Ling and the others.
Chapter 3306. A method to distort the yen state.
The black-haired elder looked at Lin Ling and waved his right hand. A corner of the space around them began to shatter, revealing a large patch of mysterious clouds. These clouds were extremely strange. They were like the mist of royal crystals. Most importantly, there were a lot of them. Senior, are you giving these clouds of spiritual energy to us? Lin Ling frowned. This elder's personality was too strange. He wanted to kill them one moment and then help them the next. It felt unreal. Of course. Hearing this, the black-haired elder looked indifferently at Lin Ling and smiled. Little rascal, I have a feeling that you were about to enter the god's realm in the past, but you didn't succeed in the end. However, your potential is very strong. I'm afraid it's above mine.
Thank you.
Lin Ling was surprised, but he nodded. The black-haired elder had actually sensed that he was Li Xiaoyao's previous self. However, compared to the black-haired elder, Li Xiaoyao was indeed about to enter the god's realm. In the end, when he was at the martial ancestor realm, he was harmed by Tian Liuli and the others. Therefore, even if Li Xiaoyao was at his peak, he might not be a match for the black-haired elder. However, compared to other domains, Li Xiaoyao definitely surpassed the black-haired elder. This was because Li Xiaoyao was known as a genius. He had learned too many domains. It was also because of this that Lin Ling could break the seal that the black-haired elder could not. If not for this, Li Xiaoyao would have spent all his time on cultivation. The black-haired elder would definitely not be a match for Li Xiaoyao. Also, your space-time god eye has yet to enter the ultimate desolate physique. There's an ultimate mica in the spiritual cloud that can allow your space-time god eye to enter a new domain. Consider it as me returning the favor to the sword demon. Furthermore, I know you have many questions, but you can ask him yourself. The black-haired elder continued. All right, all of you take care of yourselves. Now, it's time for me to leave. Flame Emperor and those old monsters, I'm here to pay for the torture you gave me in the past. Rumble. The black-haired old man let out a thunderous roar. He opened his arms and forcefully tore open the space, causing the scene of the arena to appear in the sky. At this moment, the arena was still twisting and turning. Then, a murderous figure rushed out and swept across the arena. Haha, I'm back. His domineering and unruly voice spread throughout the Yen state. As the black-haired old man waved his hands, countless powerhouses were twisted to death. What was even more frightening was that after they were twisted to death, not even a drop of blood could be seen. Instead, the heads and limbs of these martial artists were scattered all over the sky, filling the sky with a horrifying sight. However, the black-haired old man didn't stop his slaughter. With a flip of his hands, the entire arena instantly turned upside down. The most terrifying thing was that even the sky was flipped over, reaching the ground. Oh my god, what kind of person is this? It's too scary. Could he be the ninth god eye? Numerous exclamations of shock resounded in the arena, and the old man that was in charge of watching over the arena had an ashen expression on his face. He truly regretted it. He was extremely regretful. The price he had to pay for humiliating Lin Ling was simply too great. No. However, he didn't have the time to regret it because the twisted space had already reached his body. He could only watch as his limbs were twisted and pulled off, and even his head was being pulled off. However, he didn't feel any pain and could only slowly die. As a result, another head and 4 limbs appeared in the sky. What a powerful person. He actually twisted the Yen state. That should be the power of a god, a mysterious energy that surpasses the power of an ancestor. Under the ground, Lin Ling and the others raised their heads to look at the sky. They could see the scene in the arena through the huge black hole. It's the power of a god. However, that black-haired old man is at most a martial ancestor. Why is he able to control the power of a god? Wangu Wuji asked with a frown. That's because the ninth god eye is the most mysterious and strongest of the 6 great god eyes in the universe. Lin Ling explained. Although his space-time god eye was also one of the 6 great god eyes, it couldn't compare to the ninth god eye. You're out. At this moment, a furious roar came from the sky. A powerful force descended and forcefully suppressed the arena, preventing it from rolling over. Flame Emperor, I'm back. The black-haired old man smiled as he looked at the sky. It was a smile filled with battle intent. In the past, you old monsters worked together to seize my eye, but in the end, you were unable to do anything. Now that I've escaped, what can you do to me? Moreover, let me tell you this. My ninth god eye is actually not in my eyes. Ninth god eye, return. The black-haired old man roared at the sky. At this moment, in the eastern region of the myriad of worlds, an unknown world suddenly exploded. Then, a powerful energy seemed to have been summoned and rushed towards the 9 prefectures. This was the ninth god eye. The spatial energy of the ninth god eye was terrifying. It could hide its eyeball in another world through space. Hearing the black-haired old man's voice, the person in the sky was enraged. Let me see if your ninth god eye is stronger or if my ancient power is stronger. Unless you're a martial god, no one is allowed to kill me. The two experts crazily clashed, causing the Yen province to be bathed in blood and the earth to collapse. This is a true expert. Seeing the battle in the sky through the black hole, Indra and the others were filled with excitement. But at this moment, the black hole began to fuse together, once again transforming into a world of space. Let's start cultivating. Lin Ling suppressed his excitement and looked at the thick cloud of spiritual energy. He knew that this cloud of spiritual energy had been accumulated over countless years. We must become stronger. Indra and the others nodded. This excursion had allowed them to see a stronger world, so they wanted nothing more than to step into a stronger domain. Next, the few of them charged into the spirit energy cloud. These clouds were extremely pure, as if they had been refined by the black-haired old man. But on second thought, this was normal. After being sealed for so many years, he really didn't know what else to do besides play with these things. And to the black-haired old man, this little bit of spiritual energy cloud was simply in existence to fill the gaps between his teeth, so he didn't take it away. But to Lin Ling and the others, this was a huge sum of Emperor crystals. These Emperor crystals are probably enough for me to open my 5th dantian. After entering the spiritual energy cloud, Lin Ling felt the surging energy entering his body, and he couldn't help but smile. And in the depths of his dantian, fierce spiritual energy surged in and expanded his 4 dantians. Lin Ling also activated the Primal Chaos Divine Formula, but for the first time, he found that the refining speed of the Primal Chaos Divine Formula was no faster than the energy entering his dantian. This feeling was too carefree. Lin Ling had rarely experienced such a carefree feeling since he started learning martial arts. Chapter 3307. Dripping to the End. Lin Ling didn't stop there. Instead, his gaze landed on the ultimate mica. With a wave of his right hand, the mysterious and dazzling mica floated over. This mica was extremely ancient and had always accompanied the black-haired old man. It had already comprehended the Tao of space. The ultimate mica was originally a mica. However, it had been sealed here for far too long. That's why it entered the ultimate realm. Lin Ling muttered to himself as he held the dazzling mica in his hands. Then, he started to comprehend it. At the same time, multicolored flames appeared around his body. It was the space-time flames. Furthermore, a huge illusory image appeared above his head. It was the ancient space-time divine steel. The steel, which was filled with mysterious runes in the past, now had a pair of eyes. It was a pair of eyes that seemed to be able to see through time. Crackle, crackle. The flames started to burn vigorously. The destructive aura was extremely terrifying. It was as though it wanted to burn the entire 9 prefectures. Even time couldn't escape from being burned. At this moment, Lin Ling's aura started to surge. It was as though he was invincible, as though he was the ruler of the world. Lin Ling's talent is increasing crazily. Wangu Wuji and the others exclaimed in shock. They could clearly sense that Lin Ling had become more terrifying. Furthermore, it was the change in his aura. It felt as though Lin Ling had become a god that had returned from the era of gods. The reason why they had such a feeling was because Lin Ling's talent was slowly moving towards the ultimate desolate body. The ultimate desolate body represented the ultimate talent of the 9 prefectures. Boom! After an unknown period of time, the the spiritual chi clouds started to churn. It was as though the clouds were being stirred up. Dazzling multicolored lights flooded out. These were all flames. Flames that caused one's heart to palpitate. One had to know that Lin Ling rarely used the space-time divine steel. Most of the time, he used the demonic sword and the great solar calamity destroying bow to kill his enemies. That was because the space-time divine steel wasn't that powerful. As Lin Ling entered the center of the 9 prefectures, the help it provided was getting smaller and smaller. However, the space-time divine steel was starting to transform. He had completely entered the ranks of the first-grade ultimate desolate physique. I'm finally back. Although I'm still a bit away from the peak, it's good that I'm back. At that moment, Lin Ling felt extremely carefree and unrestrained. He could sense that the time and space divine steel was also emitting a roar, as if it had regained its might. Speed of space and time. Following that, Lin Ling muttered to himself. After the space-time divine steel reached the ultimate desolate body realm, its first power was its ability to traverse space on a large scale. It was like entering a teleportation array, but it was much more convenient. It could send Lin Ling to another place in less than a second. This was also a movement technique that was even more terrifying than the wind and cloud myriad realms technique. It was just that it wasn't suitable for battle. With my current strength, no one in the initial stage of the Sage stage is a match for me. Even if my opponent possesses the ultimate desolate body, as long as he is not a grade 2, he is still no match for me. Lin Ling felt a strong sense of self-confidence rise in his heart, and the smile on his face became even wider. When his 5th Dantian was born, even a stage 4 sage wouldn't be a match for him. As for stage 5 sages, unless they were more talented than him, he would dare to kill them with his sword. Rumble. After the space-time divine eye reached the ultimate desolate body realm, Lin Ling also focused his attention on the 5th Dantian. Although the 5th Dantian was currently an attributeless Dantian, it would be enough if he could open it. Crackle. The Chaos Divine Art was harder to open the Dantian as it progressed. Lin Ling was originally worried that the spiritual chi clouds wouldn't be enough. However, he soon realized that he was worrying too much. This was because the 5th source of spiritual chi had started to appear in his Dantian, and it was growing rapidly. From the beginning of the martial path, the martial spirit realm, to the Holy Spirit realm, and then to the half-saint realm. Rumble. A half-step sage tribulation was coming, but this space was extremely sharp and blocked the half-step sage tribulation. I'm at the half-saint realm now. Although this Dantian is an ordinary Dantian and its strength represents that of an ordinary half-saint realm cultivator, it still has dense world essence. Lin Ling was filled with anticipation. At the same time, he swept his gaze across the area and realized that more than half of the originally huge cloud of spirit chi had already been consumed. Among them, Lin Ling had used up the most spiritual chi. Sakura and the others had also made use of the spiritual chi cloud to step into the first heaven of the sage realm. Wangu Wuji had even stepped into the second heaven of the sage realm. However, they couldn't break through like Lin Ling. They could only stand in the distance and watch Lin Ling release his powerful aura. There's still half of the spiritual chi clouds left. However, the amount of spiritual chi needed to break through to the next realm will also increase. Since my 5th Dantian is already at the half-saint realm, why don't I do it in one go? The thought of advancing courageously rose in Lin Ling's mind. With a furious roar, he once again absorbed the spirit energy cloud in a frenzy. Rumble. Without Sakura and the others around, Lin Ling let loose and allowed the spiritual chi clouds to form a huge whirlpool as they rushed towards his 5th Dantian. Isn't this freak afraid of going berserk? Wangu Fengyun and the others sucked in a breath of cold air when they saw how domineering Lin Ling was. Even Wangu Wuji's mouth was agape. He was completely speechless. Cultivation wasn't about having more spiritual chi. It also depended on whether the cultivator could refine the spiritual chi. It was like a person eating alone. It was impossible to finish a year's worth of food in a single day. Otherwise, one would die from overeating. Don't worry. My second brother is like a cow. No matter how much spiritual chi there is, he will be able to absorb it. On the other hand, Sakura and the others roared with laughter. Rumble. At that moment, the space around them started to tremble. The sage tribulation had arrived. However, it was blocked outside the space. Even though the sage tribulation was powerful, it wasn't comparable to Lin Ling's previous breakthrough. Even without the space around them, Lin Ling wasn't afraid. His fifth dantian had entered the first heaven of the true sage realm. I finally succeeded. Lin Ling roared at the sky when he realized that he had succeeded. Waves of pressure surged out from his body, and Wangu Wuji and the others found it hard to breathe. How was he in the first heaven of the true sage realm? He was in the fifth heaven of the true sage realm. Moreover, he wasn't in the fifth heaven of the true sage realm. Isn't this fellow a little too terrifying? Wangu Wuji thought back to the first time he had met Lin Ling. At that time, he had been hunting for the bone-shattering demonic elephant in the western mountains. However, Lin Ling had appeared and saved him. He had even snatched his prey away from him. At that time, he knew that the mysterious young man before him was extraordinary. After that, they had gathered in a villa in the Heavenly King Mountain. Wangu Wuji had exchanged a single move with Lin Ling, and it had ended in a draw. Even though he had hidden his trump card back then, wasn't Lin Ling the same? Right now, he had to look up to Lin Ling. Chapter 3308. Rubbing Salt in the Wound. This Big Brother D, what is his background? When Wangu Wuji's mouth fell open, Wangu Fengyun and the others beside him were shocked. Aren't you spouting nonsense? He is the son of a devil. Sakura and the others reacted calmly. Perhaps they had seen Lin Ling create too many miracles, and they were already numb to it. That's right, that's right. He is the son of a devil. I suddenly forgot about it. No wonder. Wangu Fengyun and the others muttered to themselves. They felt that the son of a devil should be so monstrous. Walala! All of the energy in his body was retracted, and it slowly disappeared into Lin Ling's body. A faint smile hung on Lin Ling's face as he walked towards Wangu Wuji and the others. All of you have broken through. It seems like your strength has increased greatly. Lin Ling chuckled. How can we be compared to you? We have a feeling that we won't be a match for you even if we join forces. Wangu Wuji laughed bitterly. When Lin Ling heard what Wangu Wuji said, he shrugged his shoulders and didn't explain anything. He guessed that Wangu Wuji and the others had already sensed his strength, and there was no need for him to say anything. You've also reached the first level of the true sage realm. Then, Lin Ling looked at the crippled young man. The young man bowed respectfully from the bottom of his heart. Thank you for taking care of me, sir. I successfully broke through. My name is Kanjian. Savage Sword. Savage Sword. Savage Sword. Not a bad name. Lin Ling nodded his head as he looked around. Let's leave this place. He had already found the way out, but he still had to be careful. Even though their strength had increased, the experts they were going to face weren't weak. There was a black hole not far away, but it was extremely stable. It seemed to lead to another place, and Lin Ling and the others immediately shot into it. This time, they didn't have to worry about anything. If the black-haired old man wanted to harm them, he could have done so earlier. Now that there was a path for them, it was definitely safe. Indeed, the black hole was extremely safe. When Lin Ling and the others appeared, they were already on a mountain peak. He's out. Looking at the blue sky, many people smiled excitedly. In that kind of sealed space after a long time, they would feel a sense of oppression in their hearts. Therefore, they admired the black-haired old man's perseverance. I don't know how long it has been. I estimate it to be less than a year. What about the Yen state? Wangu Wuji and the others exchanged glances with each other as they flew through the sky. Not long after, they came across a few cultivators and began to question them. From what they said, Lin Ling and the others also knew that a year had passed unknowingly. What happened in the arena shocked the entire 9 prefectures. In that battle, countless martial artists had died in the Yen province, and the 9th god I had swept through the Yen province. After wreaking havoc in the Yen province, it had completely vanished. The Flame Emperor and the people from the various major forces were furious. Of course, there was nothing they could do about the 9th god I, so they could only vent their anger on the son of demon. The son of the devil had destroyed their arena. However, what was the point? The son of the devil was mysterious. Even martial god Wen Tian couldn't find him, let alone them. Haha, that senior is also a sentimental person. He destroyed the arena. How delightful. After hearing the news, Lin Ling and the others laughed loudly. However, Lin Ling looked at Wangu Wuji and said, "This matter has implicated all of you."
What nonsense are you talking about? Everyone is facing this matter together. Furthermore, didn't I benefit by following you? I've already stepped into the second heaven sage realm. Wangu Wuji said angrily.
Lin Ling shook his head and felt too embarrassed to mention this matter.
However, even if they can't find us, they will know your origins.
In that case, it will be troublesome for all of you. Lin Ling suddenly thought of something.
Haha, don't worry. Our Wangu clan has a martial god behind us. Therefore, the Flame Emperor and the others aren't qualified to ask me anything. Wangu Wuji said boldly. He looked at Wangu Fengyun and the others and said, "Don't say anything about this matter. Do you understand? Brother Wuji, don't worry. We won't say anything even if we are beaten to death. Why don't we make a blood oath right now?"
Wangu Fengyun and the others immediately spoke up.
However, Lin Ling waved his hand.
He believed in Wangu Wuji and the others.
Lin Ling, don't worry. They won't know that you are in the Great Simplicity Nebula sect. Wangu Wuji said. All right, thank you. Let's go back now. Lin Ling said a few more words to them, then bid them farewell and left. Lin Ling headed back to the Great Simplicity Nebula sect as Xiao Yu and Do Kanying were still there. Along the way, the three of them were in a good mood. After a long time, they finally arrived at the Great Simplicity Nebula sect. Lin Ling looked around and didn't find anything strange. He then entered the Great Simplicity Nebula sect with Xueqi and the others. Senior Brother Lin. Senior Brother D. Along the way, they naturally saw the disciples of the Great Simplicity Nebula sect. All of them greeted them respectfully. Lin Ling and the other two smiled. They didn't take it to heart. In their hearts, they didn't treat the Great Simplicity Nebula sect as their own sect. Lin Ling, the three of you are back? Where have you been for the past year? However, just as they entered the Great Simplicity Nebula sect, a figure blocked their path. This person was Jiang Wujie. His appearance surprised Lin Ling and the others. However, Lin Ling also noticed that Jiang Wujie's strength had increased. He had reached the fifth heaven sage realm. Do we have to inform you where we are going? Xueqi sneered when he saw the arrogant Jiang Wujie. Do you think you are the sect leader? Get lost. A good dog doesn't block the way. Meng Lu sneered. The two of them didn't take Jiang Wujie seriously at all. Moreover, they spoke so brazenly that it attracted the attention of many people in the Great Simplicity Nebula sect. All of them secretly exclaimed, "Impudent! I am your martial uncle." When Jiang Wujie saw Lin Ling, the anger in his heart surged like the sea. Now, Lin Ling even ignored him in front of the Great Simplicity Nebula sect. How could he tolerate this? Even the master of Lin Ling and the other two, Xing Xiyun, didn't dare to face him like this. Do you have any shame? You are a traitor and an impostor. If I were you, I would have already escaped from the Yen state. Trash, get lost. This time, Lin Ling also spoke. His voice was full of sarcasm. He knew that Jiang Wujie did not like him, but he, Lin Ling, was also the same. Moreover, after returning from Mount Tianwang, Jiang Wujie had been hiding, not daring to meet anyone. Now that he suddenly came out to teach them a lesson, he must have something to rely on. However, Lin Ling wasn't afraid. He just wanted to see what tricks Jiang Wujie was playing. Chapter 3309. Sharp as Thunder. Treachery and impersonation were the biggest pain in Jiang Wujie's heart. The trip to Mount Heavenly King a year ago had ruined his reputation. It was still a nightmare for him. Until now, he still felt that as long as he dared to walk in Yen province, people would point at his spine, laugh at him, and mock him. How dare you? Men, catch them. Go! Jiang Wujie roared. His eyes were bloodshot. Who dares? Go! However, Lin Ling's prestige was not much weaker than his. He also shouted, and the Grand Simplicity Nebula sect fell silent. No one dared. Everyone looked at each other. Some of Jiang Wujie's disciples gritted their teeth and quietly took a step forward. However, when they saw Lin Ling's cold gaze, their hearts trembled, and they could only retreat back.
The entire Grand Simplicity Nebula sect's attention was on Zhang Wujie and Lin Ling. Lin Ling raised his chin slightly and looked at Zhang Wujie provocatively. As for Zhang Wujie, he sensed that the surroundings were silent. His heart turned cold. In the past, his status in the Grand Change Nebula sect was second only to the sect leader. If he said one thing, no one would dare to say two. But now, a mere rising star dared to defy him and humiliate him even more. Could it be that after the trip to Mount Heavenly King, he, Zhang Wujie, had fallen to such a state? Junior Uncle Zhang, I don't know why you're targeting me. But there's an old saying, if the upper beam is not straight, the lower beam will be crooked. It's better to be honest and steady. Only then can you teach good disciples. If you're not honest, how good can your disciples be? Lin Ling said indifferently. Although his tone was calm, he was reprimanding Zhang Wujie as if he was a senior. Impudent. Who gave you the courage to talk to me like that? Also, where have you been for the past year? If you don't tell us the truth, the Grand Simplicity Nebula sect will punish you according to the sect rules. You won't even recognize your family. Zhang Wujie's face became colder and colder. Today, he did not believe that this disciple of the Constellation Nebula sect could go against him. Hearing his words, the crowd began to whisper among themselves. Lin Ling and the others had disappeared for a year. According to the rules of the sect, they were indeed in the wrong. However, Lin Ling and the others were the last disciples of the Tai Yi Patriarch. They had the right to do so. However, Zhang Wujie insisted on treating Lin Ling and the others as ordinary disciples and convicting them of their crimes. This was a little too meddlesome. After all, no matter what, Lin Ling and the others had raised the prestige of the Great Change Nebula sect. A country has its laws and a family has its rules. How can you do whatever you want just because you have some little ability? If that's the case, the Great Change Nebula sect will be in chaos. At that instant, an ancient voice with an imperious tone could be heard. Following this, several figures slowly approached them from behind Lin Ling and the others. The one leading them was an old man with a square face. He was wearing a spacious black robe, giving him an imperious appearance. Great Elder. Seeing the dignified old man, many people's faces changed and they bowed subconsciously. The old man was the oldest elder of the Great Change Nebula sect. He was highly respected and was also the first disciple of the Tai Yi Patriarch. Don't call me elder. I'm not worthy. Unexpectedly, after hearing the crowd's words, the old man spoke with righteous indignation. This caused the Great Change Nebula sect to fall silent. What do you think you are doing? Are you afraid of them? That's why you don't even dare to say a word of justice. You should know that the Great Change Nebula sect is a prestigious sect. If the Great Change Nebula sect is as foul as it is today, I don't mind giving up my position as the Great Elder. I'll travel the 9 states and enjoy myself more. Whoever wants to be the Great Elder can do it. The old man said in a discouraged tone. Great Elder, we. Some of the elders of the Great Change Nebula sect said with a wry smile. The old man's previous words were obviously just words of anger. He looked at Lin Ling and the others again and said, Disciples of Xing Shiyun? You are really arrogant and reckless. Don't think that you can be lawless just because you have some little skills. Our Grand Change Nebula sect is a famous sect. You little bumpkins better behave yourselves when you come here. I really don't know how Xing Shiyun disciplines his disciples. He can't do it himself, and his disciples can't do it either. At the end of his words, the old man looked at Lin Ling and the others with sarcasm as if he was looking at 3 pieces of trash. This old man. Sakura and the others were furious. They had never met the Great Elder, but they did not expect him to target them like this. However, they could guess that the old man must have some conflicts with Xing Shiyun. As for Zhang Wujie, he also sneered. If he was alone, his words carried little weight. Now that the Great Elder had spoken, Lin Ling and the others had to bow their heads and admit their mistakes. You're the Great Elder? My master's senior brother? Anger rose in Lin Ling's heart, but he still spoke calmly. I don't have that kind of junior brother. The old man snorted. Lin Ling smiled and said again, The Great Elder is so angry. I wonder where you came from. You asked me where I went? I went to the Li family of Yen State. Do you know that big family? You country bumpkins don't know the aristocrats of Yen State at all. Sigh. The old man was not like Zhang Wujie. Taking advantage of his high prestige, He even pointed at Lin Ling and the others and reprimanded them.
However, even Xing Xiyun is not qualified to ask me. Who do you think you are? In the past, your master was stupid and couldn't do anything well. I scolded him many times. Now, the disciples he taught are also not sensible. If the upper beam is not straight, the lower beam will be crooked. I think that if you didn't complete a task by luck, you wouldn't even be worth a fart. I have to say that the Great Change Nebula sect has changed. It's no longer based on strength, but on reputation. Sigh, I really feel bad for the Great Change Nebula sect. Also, where have you been for the past year? You disappeared for a year without saying anything. Do you think the Great Change Nebula sect is your home? Hearing those words, Sakura and the others were even angrier. However, Lin Ling waved his hand and sneered, stopping them from speaking. Instead, he looked at the Great Elder and said, "Then, may I ask if the Great Elder told everyone in the Great Change Nebula sect that you went to the Li family? As for me, I don't seem to know that you went to the Great Change Nebula sect. Who do you think you are? Do I have to tell you when I go to the Li family?"
Hearing this, the old man laughed angrily.
Who do you think you are? Do we have to tell you when we go out? However, Lin Ling asked indifferently. His words made the old man's face freeze. He was speechless. You really don't know etiquette.
It's an insult to my master to have a senior brother like you.
As the Great Elder, you don't even tell the Great Change Nebula sect when you go out. Do you think the Great Change Nebula sect is your home? Chapter 33:10. There is no one else as long as I am here.
They're rebelling.
The old man was clearly unable to refute Lin Ling's words.
Given his seniority, there was no need for him to tell anyone that he had separated from the Grand Change Nebula sect.
However, based on what he had said earlier, it seemed that he was being somewhat lawless. Since he was also lawless, what qualifications did he have to criticize Lin Ling? No wonder the Grand Change Nebula sect has become stale. It turns out that there are too many people who take advantage of their seniority. Lin Ling said again. The people of the Grand Simplicity Nebula sect were shocked. They did not expect Lin Ling to be so arrogant. He even dared to scold the Great Elder. Although Zhang Wujie's seniority was not low, he was still a little young. Naturally, he did not have the right to speak like the top people in the Great Change Nebula sect. However, the first elder was the first disciple of the Great Change Ancestor. Apart from the Great Change Ancestor, who dared to scold him?
Master, aren't you going to come out and be fair?
Zhang Wujie couldn't help but sigh when he saw that the first elder was fuming with anger.
Where is the justice?
I, Zhang Wujie, have studied martial arts all my life for the glory of the Great Simplicity Nebula sect. However, some villains made the Great Simplicity Nebula sect a mess just because they gained power for a while. I couldn't stand it, so I came out to say something. But I was hurt by those villains. Master, do you want to watch the Great Simplicity Nebula sect become dirty and eventually go to ruin? Zhang Wujie's voice grew louder and louder. His face was full of injustice. It was as if he was thinking for the Great Change Nebula sect.
Master.
The first elder also let out a long sigh. Although he had been very awe-inspiring before, he still didn't dare to attack Lin Ling. After all, he knew that Lin Ling and the other two were the last disciples of the Tai Yi Grand Ancestor. Although they were not officially acknowledged, anyone who was not blind would know. Over the years, the Tai Yi Patriarch had rarely recruited disciples. Therefore, once a disciple became his last disciple, his status would be second only to one person. However, after the two of them spoke, the Great Change Nebula sect remained silent. Seeing this, a thought flashed through everyone's mind. The Tai Yi Patriarch clearly did not want to bother with this matter. After all, anyone with a bit of rationality would know that Zhang Wujie was deliberately finding fault with Lin Ling today. If Lin Ling was an ordinary person, he could be sacrificed. Unfortunately, Lin Ling was no ordinary person. Therefore, the Tai Yi Patriarch did not want to force Lin Ling and the other two over such a small matter. Bastard! That great elder looked dignified, but in reality, he was good at adapting to the situation. At present, he was also certain that Lin Ling and the other two were gradually climbing up, and were about to climb over his head. He felt very uncomfortable in his heart. It was only 1 or 3 juniors, but they were actually climbing over his head. Secondly, these 3 juniors were Xing Shiyun's disciples. He had always felt superior to Xing Shiyun and could not accept being trampled on by Xing Shiyun. Jiang Wujie seemed to be sighing, but his mood had hit rock bottom. He had also noticed that the seniority of Lin Ling and the other 2 wasn't much lower than his. Naturally, he was unwilling to accept this. Master, if you don't come out and say something fair, then Wujie will leave. Yes. Jiang Wujie revealed his final trump card. It was because of this that he dared to provoke Lin Ling today, because he wanted to push Lin Ling and the other 2 to the bottom of the valley. As early as a year ago, the new heavenly court had already extended an olive branch to me. But I ignored it because I, Jiang Wujie, am not an ungrateful person. 3 months ago, the new heavenly court came to me again and asked me to go to the new heavenly court to create a great cause together. But I still refused because I am a sentimental person. However, the current Grand Simplicity Nebula sect is no longer as impartial and strict as before. I really can't stay here any longer, so I want to leave. Yes. Jiang Wujie looked up at the sky and shouted loudly. Grand Simplicity Nebula sect instantly exploded because the most talented sage in the history of their sect was going to leave? If so, it would be a loss for Grand Simplicity Nebula sect. Junior brother Wujie, you can't. Yes. The great elder let out an anxious voice. Sigh, I don't want to either. As long as I am here, there will be no one else. Sigh. It was like a hero's lament. Jiang Wujie said with a long sigh. This, sigh. Seeing that Jiang Wujie was not joking, the people immediately made a sound. Lin Ling and the other 2 were expressionless. Instead they sneered. They finally understood what Jiang Wujie was relying on. It turned out that he was using this as an excuse to force Jiang Wujie to abdicate. Ironically, Jiang Wujie was still as shameless as before. He had described the current Great Change Nebula sect as a foul place. In the past, when Jiang Wujie was still around, the Great Change Nebula sect was fair and just. Could his skin be any thicker? However, Lin Ling and the other 2 were not in a hurry. They wanted to see what Jiang Wujie was relying on. Jiang Wujie chuckled when he saw that the Grand Simplicity Elder remained silent. 3 months ago, I made a breakthrough as well. I barely managed to reach the 5th level of the Saint Realm. Although it's harder to reach the Saint Realm than to reach the heavens, it took me 3 years to reach the next level. This is also the last pride I've left for the Great Simplicity Nebula sect. At least in the future, Master can tell the other sect leaders that the Great Simplicity Nebula sect once had the youngest person in the 5th heaven of the Sage Realm who possessed the ultimate desolation body. I am unfilial. I hope you can forgive me. I will be back in the future. Jiang Wujie kept talking. He bowed slightly to the sky and then strode away. He was smart. Before he left, he even revealed his cultivation realm. He wanted to surprise the Grand Simplicity Nebula sect leader and make him reluctant to give up on him. After all, although there were many 5th heaven of the Sage Realm in Grand Simplicity Nebula sect, they were all very old. He was the only one as young as Jiang Wujie. Therefore, Jiang Wujie was also the pride of Grand Simplicity Nebula sect. Sigh, why bother? However, just as Jiang Wujie took a step forward, a long sigh finally sounded. The Grand Simplicity Nebula sect leader had appeared. Everyone in Grand Simplicity Nebula sect immediately bowed. However, the Grand Simplicity Nebula sect leader waved his hand and looked at Jiang Wujie indifferently. He really did not want to see today's situation. Therefore, he had kept silent previously, hoping that this matter would pass. However, he did not expect Jiang Wujie to insist on a showdown. This put him in a difficult position. The palm of his hand was his flesh, and the back of his hand was also his flesh. Moreover, from the bottom of his heart, he liked Jiang Wujie more. After all, they had known each other for a long time and had some feelings for each other. However, Lin Ling and the other 2 were not weak and had made great contributions to Grand Simplicity Nebula sect. If he openly helped Jiang Wujie, he would not be able to say anything to others. Most importantly, he could see that Jiang Wujie was deliberately finding trouble with Lin Ling and the other 2. All these reasons were the reason why the Grand Simplicity Nebula sect leader did not show up previously. Everyone is doing this for Grand Simplicity Nebula sect. Wujie, it is better to squash enmity than to keep it alive. The Grand Simplicity Nebula sect leader looked at Jiang Wujie and said, Master, I am unfilial. I will listen to you no matter what. However, when it comes to Grand Simplicity Nebula sect, I will not give in.
Chapter 33:11. The Truth of Heaven and Earth. Can't we both take a step back? Patriarch Tai Yi asked again. No. Zhang Wujie was very stubborn. At this moment, the great elder spoke again. Master, please make a decision. We can only choose one out of the two. Junior brother Zhang's potential and strength are obvious to all. Think about it. Junior brother Zhang has only cultivated for a short period of time, but he has already reached the fifth heaven sage realm. Moreover, he possesses the ultimate desolation body. He is the one who will inherit your legacy. Giving him up would be a loss to the Great Change Nebula sect. As for Xing Shiyun and the other disciples, although they have some skills, can they compare to Zhang Wujie? As soon as he said this, the grand simplicity old man fell into deep thought. Everyone's eyes continued to flicker. Although they also felt that Zhang Wujie was too stingy, who asked Zhang Wujie to have greater talent and strength. And this was the capital. This thought did not last long. The Tai ancestor finally looked at Lin Ling and the others. He let out a long sigh and said, "In the past, your master did not receive fair treatment. Today, I wanted to make it up to you. Unfortunately, the situation has forced me to do so. From now on, the three of you will be demoted to ordinary disciples." He didn't chase away Lin Ling and the other two. After all, their talents were there for all to see. However, being demoted to an ordinary disciple was no better than being chased away. In the past, Xing Shiyun was demoted to an ordinary disciple. Hence, he was too ashamed to stay in the Great Change Nebula sect. Today, would Lin Ling and the others be treated the same way? This is too much. Sakura and the others suddenly became unreconciled. Although they did not feel a sense of belonging to the Great Change Nebula sect, they would still feel embarrassed if their status was lowered. They did not care about it, but how would Xing Shiyun face it when he knew about it? Not long ago, many elders of the Great Change Nebula sect had visited Xing Shiyun and even congratulated him. Therefore, if Xing Shiyun were to meet those senior and junior brothers again, would he still have any face left? Aren't you going to thank Patriarch Tai Yi? The great elder immediately said with a sneer on his face. Zhang Wujie was the same. In fact, he did not want to drive Lin Ling away. Instead, he wanted to stay in Grand Change Nebula sect. Only in this way could he vent his anger and torture Lin Ling when they met again. Haha, Tai ancestor. I'm sure you know who's right and who's wrong here. Today, because of his words, you're inexplicably demoting us three brothers to ordinary disciples? Don't you think that the Grand Change Nebula sect will be even more chaotic if you do this? At this moment, Lin Ling spoke with a smile, but his words were like a sword that pierced the heart of the old man. However, Lin Ling opened his mouth again and said, "I don't think the Great Simplicity Nebula sect is fair and just. It's a one-sided hegemony. Since it's like this, the three of us won't stay here any longer. The Great Simplicity Nebula sect doesn't need to lower our status. We don't deserve to be part of the Great Simplicity Nebula sect. Let's go." No wonder Master left. I see. With that, Lin Ling left with Sakura and Meng Liang. The Great Simplicity Nebula sect fell silent. The Tai ancestor's expression changed slightly. This was the situation he did not want to see the most. He could not help but say anxiously, "Lin Ling, Sakura, Meng Liang, there's a reason for this. Although you've been demoted, at least you can still be promoted. If you leave, we'll lose all hope." The pleading tone in his voice made Lin Ling finally stop in his tracks. He was not surprised by the Tai ancestor's attitude. After all, a genius with great talent could change the future of a sect. Just like the trip to Mount Tianwang, the Great Simplicity Nebula sect was originally an ordinary sect. However, Lin Ling had created a miracle and made the Great Simplicity Nebula sect one of the top 3 sects in the Yan province. This was also the reason why the Tai ancestor begged Lin Ling and agreed to Zhang Wujie's unreasonable request. Lose all hope. Lin Ling turned to look at the Tai ancestor and said calmly, "There's something I don't understand. Why did the sect compromise with him when he threatened to leave? Why did the sect twist the truth and make it our fault? If the Tai ancestor can answer this question, the three of us won't leave. We'll stay in the sect and work like cows and horses." As soon as his words came out, everyone was stunned. Then they secretly laughed. Wasn't this an obvious example? Lin Ling and the other two could not compare to Zhang Wujie. Zhang Wujie had the ultimate desolate body and a cultivation of the fifth heaven saint realm. This was enough to prove everything.
Ha ha ha, you really can't see your own trash clearly. You compromised because you can't compare to Zhang Wujie. Zhang Wujie is the sky of the Yan province, and you are a pile of shit on the ground. That great elder even laughed mockingly. However, Lin Ling and the other two ignored him and continued to look at the Tai ancestor. The Tai ancestor sighed and said, "What they said is true. In the land of the 9 states, strength is everything. Although the 3 of you are talented, you can't compare to him. So you twisted the truth and went against your principles. You turned black into white and openly supported him." Lin Ling immediately added, not giving any face to the Tai ancestor. This made the Tai ancestor angry. He had shown Lin Ling and the other two enough respect by speaking nicely to them. Who knew that Lin Ling would repeatedly challenge his authority? That's right. This is the truth of heaven and earth. The Tai ancestor's voice turned cold. Then what right does he have to be the truth of heaven and earth? Lin Ling asked relentlessly. Master, let me explain. At this moment, Zhang Wujie walked out, his clothes flapping in the wind. He looked down at Lin Ling and said, "The truth of heaven and earth is sometimes very simple. Strength speaks for itself. Therefore, I don't want to say much. You and I will fight and I will give you 3 moves. If you win, you will also be the truth of heaven and earth. Do you have any shame? You are our master's generation, and now you want Lin Ling to fight you," Meng Lu said sarcastically. Zhang Wujie didn't care. No matter what, we have to distinguish between right and wrong. If he doesn't fight, what right does he have to speak? After saying that, his aura became even more terrifying. The ultimate desolate body had arrived. This was the first-grade ultimate desolate body, the purple sky astral body. This talent was the talent of the purple god bloodline. It could forcibly seize the spiritual energy of the 10,000 worlds in the 9 states and augment one's body with it, forming a powerful force. This is the truth of heaven and earth. After the ultimate desolate body appeared, Zhang Wujie's voice became even more awe-inspiring. Everyone's hearts were pounding because Zhang Wujie rarely displayed the ultimate desolate body in front of others. Now that they saw it, they immediately felt immense pressure. Some of the weaker people even saw stars twinkling in their eyes and ears. It made them dizzy and they couldn't even stand properly. This is also the truth of heaven and earth. Chapter 33:12. Lin Ling also had an ultimate desolate body. With a roar, surging boundary essence erupted in the sky of the Grand Change Nebula sect, the 5th level of the Saint Realm. With such strength and the ultimate desolation body, not many elders in the Great Change Nebula sect were a match for him. And this was his capital to force Lin Ling and distort the truth. In the land of the 9 prefectures, strength was everything. Zhang Wujie had the key to the deity's world. In the future, he might even surpass martial ancestor Tai. Rumble. At this moment, Zhang Wujie was like the most dazzling star in the sky. The entire Great Change Nebula sect fell silent. Zhang Wujie looked at Lin Ling as if Lin Ling was the only person in the world. He waved his hand and said, "Lin Ling, come on. In the name of your master, show me how powerful you are." Hearing his voice, everyone turned to look at Lin Ling. However, there was no change in Lin Ling's expression as he said calmly, "Is this your ability to distort right and wrong and provoke me for no reason?" "You can think of it that way." Zhang Wujie nodded. To him, this was nothing out of the ordinary. He surpassed Lin Ling by so much. What qualifications did Lin Ling have to be on equal footing with him? Tai martial ancestor. Is this your intention as well? Lin Ling ignored him and looked at the Tai progenitor calmly. The Tai progenitor nodded. Since things had come to this, he did not want to hide anything anymore. The Great Change Nebula sect was left behind by the ancient deities. It needs to be passed down and the inheritor must have great potential. Therefore, I know that you feel wrong today. However, there are few things in this world that are perfect. Take your master for example. He was wronged but the Great Change Nebula sect did not stand up for him. On the contrary, after you rose to power, the people of the Great Change Nebula sect came to visit you. This is the same principle. Strength changes everything. Martial ancestor Tai said. I understand now. Lin Ling nodded. In fact,
He already knew this principle. He smiled and said, "What martial ancestor Tai means is that he is stronger and more talented than me. Therefore, he will always be above me in the Great Change Nebula sect."
That's right.
Martial ancestor Tai thought that Lin Ling was willing to compromise.
You talk too much nonsense. Either you don't fight or you kneel. I'll give you a handicap of 3 moves. Furthermore, I won't use my talent. I'll fight you like this because you are not qualified to make me use my ultimate desolate body, Zhang Wujie said in a dignified tone.
At this moment, he already knew that he had washed away the shame of the past. Martial ancestor Tai, martial ancestor Zhang Wujie was martial ancestor Tai Lin Ling. We're all from the same sect.
We'll see each other all the time. Take a step back and you'll be at peace.
Moreover, your master has a bad reputation in the Great Change Nebula sect. If you leave, your master will continue to bear the bad reputation. Therefore, your choice is correct. Seeing Lin Ling's actions, martial ancestor Tai laughed. He thought that Lin Ling had compromised and was willing to accept the punishment. Moreover, he would have to bow his head to Zhang Wujie for the rest of his life. Lin Ling, in fact, your master is the same in front of Zhang Wujie. Therefore, why are you so stubborn? The other elders chimed in one after another. They still valued Lin Ling. Wujie, we are family after all. Therefore, it is better to punish him appropriately. Martial ancestor Tai said to Zhang Wujie. Zhang Wujie sneered and nodded. Of course, he would punish him appropriately. Now that Lin Ling had been demoted to an ordinary disciple, he only needed Lin Ling to kowtow to him and admit his mistake in front of everyone. However, as long as Lin Ling was still in the Great Change Nebula sect, Zhang Wujie would definitely cripple him. Lin Ling, kneel down and apologize. Martial ancestor Tai said again.
Apologize? Why should I apologize?
However, Lin Ling also spoke. His words stunned everyone in the Great Change Nebula sect. Wasn't Lin Ling supposed to bow his head and admit his mistake? Martial ancestor Tai eyes narrowed. If Lin Ling wasn't here to apologize, then what was he here for? Could it be? A thought arose in his mind. Was Lin Ling here to challenge Zhang Wujie? That was crazy. To Lin Ling, Zhang Wujie was his martial uncle. No matter how powerful Lin Ling was, how could he catch up to Zhang Wujie? Just as he was about to speak, Lin Ling spoke first. Zhang Wujie? With your strength, you dare to give me a handicap of 3 moves? Lin Ling's eyes were cold as he said coldly. Zhang Wujie was Xing Shiyun's junior brother. It could be seen that Zhang Wujie had humiliated Xing Shiyun many times in the past. Perhaps it was because of Zhang Wujie's existence that Xing Shiyun couldn't stand the humiliation and left the Great Change Nebula sect. Therefore today, Lin Ling was going to teach this martial uncle a lesson on behalf of his master. I don't need you to give me a handicap of 3 moves. Let's fight. Lin Ling walked towards Zhang Wujie step by step, his aura growing stronger and stronger. The light of a sage shone on the Great Change Nebula sect. In fact, many people had noticed this terrifying strength long ago. However, there were some people who only realized it now, such as the Great Change Nebula sect. Previously, their attention was on Zhang Wujie. Who would have thought that Lin Ling would enter the sage stage? One should know that Lin Ling was the first to enter the sage stage among the 9 states youths, who had entered the Great Change Nebula sect to learn martial arts. Moreover, the most terrifying thing was that his cultivation was the lowest among all the youths who had entered the Great Change Nebula sect. This guy entered the sage stage faster than us. Zilong, Yiling Tian, Yu Ru, and the others looked extremely serious. The Great Change Nebula sect was also very surprised. However, he quickly got used to it. After all, Lin Ling had been at the peak of the Sage to Be realm not long ago. It wasn't strange for him to have a breakthrough now. Moreover, he dared to challenge Zhang Wujie as a First Heaven Sage. He didn't know what was good for him. Is this the reason you're courting death? Hee, don't forget that I have the ultimate desolate body. Zhang Wujie sneered. He wasn't surprised that Lin Ling had entered the sage stage. He felt that it was just so. However, just as he finished laughing, the sky and earth suddenly fell silent. Time seemed to have stopped at this moment. Billowing flames quietly spread out, forming a strong pressure that made everyone unable to lift their heads. It was a pressure that felt like they were facing a god. What? At this moment, everyone's expression changed drastically. This terrifying and imposing aura had appeared before from Jiang Wujie. Now Lin Ling had it too. Could it be? Everyone was shocked by this thought. Jiang Wujie's eyes trembled violently. He looked at the youth who was a generation younger than him. At this moment, his entire body was covered in flames. The huge stone tablet above his head let out a deafening sound, giving him a strong sense of pressure. "Ultimate desolate body?" he exclaimed. He thought that he was the only one among the younger generation in the Great Change Nebula sect who had the ultimate desolate body. Therefore he was proud and arrogant, thinking that the Great Change Nebula sect would go easy on him. However, who knew that Lin Ling had it too? Chapter 33:13. There is no one else as long as there is me. Jiang Wujie, if the ultimate desolate body is what makes you proud, then I don't think there's anything to be proud of. Lin Ling's indifferent voice quietly drifted out of his mouth. The speed of 100 worlds appeared, and his blue robe flashed mysteriously in front of Jiang Wujie. The fusion of his 5 dantians formed a terrifying punch that smashed into Jiang Wujie's chest. He didn't need any martial arts, nor did he need to use any trump cards. His talent and boundary essence represented everything. This punch could easily destroy 10,000 worlds. In a place like the 9 prefectures, it could easily cause the sky to collapse and the earth to crack. Boom! Lin Ling's speed was too fast. After the fusion of his 5 dantians and his powerful physical strength, he could reach the speed of 100 worlds. Moreover, this was under the premise that he did not use the wind and cloud myriad worlds technique. This punch was so terrifying that it caused Jiang Wujie's chest to distort. Although he had the means to forcibly extract the power of the chaotic stars, this punch contained a power that exceeded the amount of power he could extract. His defense could not withstand it at all. Boom! Boom! The sky suddenly exploded, as if a huge crack had appeared in the glass. The entire Grand Simplicity Nebula sect started to shake. Then, a figure fell from the sky and crashed into the ground. Countless boulders and dust flew up into the sky. "You'll give me 3 moves? Martial Uncle Jiang, it's better for you to say this to others." A mocking voice drifted out from the billowing dust. Previously, Jiang Wujie had arrogantly allowed Lin Ling 3 moves. But now, Lin Ling only needed 1 move to send Jiang Wujie flying. Silence! Such a result shocked the Grand Change Nebula sect. They both had the ultimate desolate body, but Lin Ling was only at the first heaven of the Saint Realm. How could he send Jiang Wujie flying? Bang! However, this was not the end. In the sky, a huge stone tablet came crashing down. The place where it landed was where Jiang Wujie had fallen. What was even more frightening was that even though the colorful flames were burning, time seemed to have frozen around the stone tablet. Boom! Boom! People could only watch as the ancient stone steel came crashing down like an avalanche. This smash shook the entire Yen state. As for the Grand Change Nebula sect, it was completely destroyed. Even the elders of the Grand Change Nebula sect were pale. The strength that Lin Ling had displayed was something that they could not compare to. Especially the Great Elder, he was so scared that he knelt down. Because he felt that Lin Ling's strength was even stronger than his. This also meant that in the Great Change Nebula sect, there were no more than 5 people who could defeat Lin Ling, excluding the Great Change Old Ancestor. This is the truth of heaven and earth. In the silence, Lin Ling's voice floated out again, but this time, it carried a domineering aura. At the same time, a figure slowly floated into the sky. It was a blue robe that was as dazzling as the sun. He had one hand behind his back, and the other hand was holding an extremely wretched figure. It was none other than Jiang Wujie. 2 moves. Jiang Wujie had been knocked unconscious. After all, Jiang Wujie was the #1 genius of the Sage Realm in the Great Change Nebula sect. Previously, he had even boldly declared that he would give Jiang Wujie 3 moves. In the end, he was defeated by a disciple of the Xingxiu sect, and he did not even need to give Jiang Wujie 3 moves. The entire Great Change Nebula sect seemed to be boiling at this moment. However, Lin Ling did not pay attention to those shocked gazes. Instead, he withdrew his right arm and looked straight into Jiang Wujie's eyes. At this moment, Jiang Wujie was extremely wretched. Blood was flowing from the corner of his mouth. His long hair was messy, and his eyes were filled with panic and shock. Especially when he saw Lin Ling's eyes. He did not dare to look directly into them. He was the only one who knew how terrifying Lin Ling's attack power was.
You're not even as good as me. How can you be superior to my master? Lin Ling looked at Zhang Wujie indifferently and said sarcastically. Today, he displayed his talent and strength not only because he was unhappy with Zhang Wujie, but also because he wanted to clear his master's name.
Say it.
Weren't you very talkative before? Are you saying that black is white? Seeing that Zhang Wujie could not refute, Lin Ling patted his cheek. That domineering action was as if he was mocking an ant. Zhang Wujie had never been humiliated like this before. However, when he thought of Lin Ling's strength, what could he do? Crack.
He gritted his teeth and closed his eyes, not daring to look at Lin Ling.
Tai old ancestor, you said that martial Uncle Zhang has the ultimate desolate body and is at the fifth heaven of the Saint Realm. Therefore I have to go easy on him because his talent and strength are better. Is that right? Lin Ling retracted his gaze and looked at the Tai old ancestor. The Tai old ancestor was obviously speechless. This was because Zhang Wujie had the ability to distort the truth and provoke Lin Ling. However, now that Zhang Wujie had been beaten like a dog by Lin Ling, what else could the Tai old ancestor say? A sect needed a strong up-and-coming talent to pass down its legacy. This would not only strengthen the sect, but also intimidate the surrounding major forces. Therefore, Zhang Wujie was valued by the Tai old ancestor. However, Lin Ling had also told him that the people that the Tai Nebula sect should value were Xing Shiyun's disciples. Don't underestimate Xing Shiyun. Seeing that the Tai old ancestor was silent, Lin Ling laughed heartily. Then, he threw Zhang Wujie to the ground like a dead dog. Next, he and Meng Lu walked proudly towards West Mountain. The three figures were as dazzling as the sun. The Tai old ancestor was still standing there, a bitter smile on his face. Right now, he was no longer a human being. Don't underestimate Xing Shiyun. Then, the Tai old ancestor muttered to himself.
He thought of that good-for-nothing disciple and the three young men that disciple had recruited.
These figures quietly merged together, as if the person who had defeated Zhang Wujie was Xing Shiyun. There was no doubt that the Tai Nebula sect had changed today. The sage stage expert with the most potential in their sect was Lin Ling, Meng Lu, and Meng Lu, not Zhang Wujie. In the Tai Nebula sect, Lin Ling's status was only second to the Tai old ancestor. Just as Lin Ling and the other two returned to West Mountain, a figure pounced on them from behind. It was Masters Jr. He. After landing on West Mountain, he looked at Lin Ling and the other two as if they were monsters. His face was extremely pale. Now, should I call you senior brothers? Or should I call you junior nephews? Obviously, Masters Jr. He was also there, so he had seen everything with his own eyes. So now he felt extremely bitter. In front of Lin Ling and the other two, he often acted like a junior uncle. But now, his junior nephew's strength was several times stronger than his. How could he not be shocked? Of course you should call us junior nephews. Seeing this, Lin Ling suddenly smiled. Although Masters Jr. he was usually a little dignified, it was undeniable that Masters Jr. he was very sincere to them. That kind of seriousness was only because he wanted his son to succeed. Masters Jr. he's bitter smile deepened. The three of you always hide to cultivate and never go to the Tai Nebula sect to learn martial arts. I've always been very dissatisfied with this. It turns out that all of you are so powerful. You hid it so well from me. You're tuning in to the Xueqi's Martial Arts Saga YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.